akan mazun sosarwa. Jadi pasti kan macam mana setang besar, tapi seru di situ kan macam mana pasti setang besar. Sumpah cekak semua. Macam rosong ya, tapi masih situ. Aneh ya. Mau tak kelas sasong ya, sasong. Sama. Nasaro. Mau tak? Mau kan sama. Harga sih Azi bana şey der ona bu yaşır böyle. Yaşır. Zaten Mego pomsı yapıyor paşalı yaxşı. Qanın yaxşı deyilən öyrəşdi. Ama tabii ama da. Yeah, okay. Today delay summer everybody. Good afternoon. 근데 다들 계셔지라요. 다들 노르산편 나간다. 노르산편 녀마 당가서 추소 상녀마 가마해 가는 가서 저반다. 원저바 요저 리도 같은 거 이나 시카고 말해 가는. 대치드네 다 티지라 다 제로가 망보치 나 담보자발에 그 개조 치료와 치료 되가 나지 그 다다 조금 전에 뭐 혼자 용도听见 더特殊 개조 치료 我就是大家他这是咱样这种话忙不起的，大概是这咱们过去。我真的大家早上就就说去，等康巴车脚下，特别车轻不多一下，车么个提价数字，当然的就说来这用的是啥，他手头有嘛的，提起了安诺去，他收获节去这些呢，我收获节去在收着都是，但那准备的，同样的是，但那准备在收获去呢。这亚萨的这等于拉公司说的，我第一个他通送啊条的没，别真的可别各地情报轻松的呢，突击去是个可能看到是非常意思。
So first, there's one thing I would like to say in the beginning, and so that is there's Nobo Sampel here. I've known him already before we came here to the center in Chicago, and so now ever since he has always helped with translation and many other things in the center. Also, for example, when Roberto Nimbo came, he was translating, and he just was all around very always supportive. And also, like recently, we had some issues because the center actually paid a lot of taxes, like property taxes, and it took property tax, more. So that and then and then we wanted to get a tax exempt status, but it was quite challenging. So then Arno that maybe there's somebody a Mongolian contact who might be able to help. But eventually we felt that Noble Sample really would be our best help, our best resource in figuring this out. And so he offered to help with that, and so then we asked him to help, and now actually it went through, and we were able to finally get our tax exempt status for the center. So I'm really so grateful to him, and I wanted to say thank you and offer a kata to him.
저는 다른 마음바 다른 가서 주소로 발본치야. 제가 휴요스 너라.
And I also request with the hope that he will continue to help the center in the future.
also 제가 뭐 나 근데 딘딘 소리. 와네 근데 다다 노르잠베 이렇게 산다다다 드라마라 대나지 잡초 진가도 치요 됐어 정말 두개 제승에 가다지 딘디.
And then also, sorry, he helped with is it
이게
so she also she was it Noble Sample Sampagi Karere? Sorry. Karere Sungsong?
드라마라 그때 노르잠베라 내가 내가 정말 잡초시 제가 너는
Oh,
뭐가 제일 두개 치에서
so she helped with the helped Noble Sampel and many other things, like with the Tara statue, and just all around. Helped so much. Huh?
그 말에 따라
What?
말에
Dormo Karere Sungsong?
노르잠베 산다 요라 산다 드라마레와
Mm-hmm. Huh?
친구가 조점으로 조점
Malay
산다
sorry, Tom. Her name is Dorma, so Tongi. Yeah.
노르잠베 산다 네
Sorry.
노르 내가 가면은 잡초 시리
So Dolma, his wife, he's the Noble Sample's wife, and so she, her name is Dolma, and so she supported all in any Noble Sample in all of his activities. So I'm also thanking her.
되게 시 인터넷 다시 인터넷 다 가서 인터넷 알아 치치는 페나 페 가르친 치다 쟤는 다 다른 가서 주티 그거 다 가래 라미테 랍 사마존에
She,
라미테 랍 사러와
she's so sorry.
어제 어제 전에 라들 와다 라들 다 피스 당니 차게 토베드지 라인 에콰도르에 오메신 라들 나자친 보여서와 어제 신감 된 나자 넘버 탑 도르젠창 신감 어제 예미 초월 송잠 나자 반나 바타나
So then come back to our text. So next we come to the blessing of the gods, and so again with the skull cup in your hand, this Vajra Yogini, you scoop the nectar and you sprinkle it over the god realms, transforming them into a pure land, and with that the pride of the gods dissolve, and then as the pride dissolves, their god realms transform into Vajradhara's pure land.
전에 다들이 피 대다 양제 도츠레 빌하나 사 양제 도츠 리바 좀 장지 주메 거셔서 안테 도츠제 도르네 테네 리바 좀 장다 다리 바체 테 도츠 도르테라 라미 타라데 라미 나지 동아 테라다 타 라미 전고야 동아제 요로 티는 도방 원바요 말 사조 도방 원로야 티 동아로스 타마이 탑수고 바다 단 치티 치티 중도 변면서 동아 버렸어 타즈 내 fon보로와 어떻게 티 치티 중도 동아 나미 선장 녀와 나지 동아 요레스 동아 침보레스 등에 송통 시선은 하나 존남 존네 등에 송통도 그래스 말아레베 동두 삼년 제대종 세종요라 동두 삼
Miller Rebecca.
동두 삼년 제대종 삼방년 바제네 등에 송통도 치보 동지 서든 동면 동아를 요레스 한에 연초라 마보성베 책미 서든 한에 요반라 마보롱야 같이 요 말레스 치보 동지 동아 참치 시네 我的基本东西东岸发现呢，这把中将就是美国说从上，我才去过的也是。
Then next again, we sprinkle the nectar over the god rams, and then as it touches them, their three obscurations are purified, and they become Vajrayogini. So then the sufferings of the god rams, the gods, becomes pacified. And so also the gods actually experience immense suffering. First of all, they suffer because they're constantly caught in those battles with the demigods. They constantly have to fight back against the demigods. And then also, they are never truly satisfied, even though they are surrounded by all these pleasures. And also, when the signs of death begin to show, then they are in the greatest torment because they can actually see their future birth. And that causes intense panic, and the suffering of that is just like suffering in the hell realms. And then they're falling down into the lower realms. And so this falling down into the lower realms, so Milarepa had said that that which really kind of makes you fall down, which the force that drags you down into the lower realms is the intention, is the state of mind. So they're falling down from their high states and then will experience endless suffering. So by consecrating them with the nectar, then that suffering becomes pacified, and their two obscurations purified, and they become Vajrayogini.
我真的到第这个抽吃糠，你这些逻辑吃糠汤包子做给他逻辑你来这个逻辑几天他怕讲的先看不着了，吃糠你就用着话这他抽的，这都今年就学他怕就是这是哪的错意呢？
So to summarize that is that the in the Tibetan, the first two lines of each of those rams that we just consecrated, the first two lines purify the outer impure container that is the world that these beings in the six rams live in, and they're transformed into the pure lands. And then the last two lines in Tibetan is two lines, then the actual beings in these worlds, they are transformed and they become Vajrayogini. So that is the essence of this consecration.
我真的咱没这个那种这种节奏，那里马真去过，真的，他这辈子没能去，嘛那两年看没去，身边这些同志，他都今年就嘛，那么这穷那是都是尝试，我这都是尝咱都，真的得看这一把咱们，让东岸现在强调进步 top，他几块的同当中，这个可能东把咱们送是吧？这个可能东把咱们送呢，脾气这样大是，真的这种多脾气这样大是。
So then there's what is it? Is it in the text? A line.
哦，没这个光片这种多，这上有什么在进的公堂？
I don't know. Okay, it's not in the text.
真
So
的。
magic.
这moment去那罗，那罗什么钱罗的，什么钱
Mhm.
都跟对着的了，真的，什么地区都是那叫嘛的穷呢，都是长的，这可能在喇叭咱们都是头把咱们，这驴多那驴窄把咱们，真的让人说个东岸现在，这上街头送上，这这个肉可能从嘛东送上，我这就这样打不过来是。
So then there's some lines by Margie Labdon, as a summary, a commentary. So through in these blessings of the realms, all the realms are purified from the highest peak of cyclic existence down to the deepest hells. Everything becomes purified. All beings become Vajrayogini. And so, upon being touched by the nectar, all of their suffering becomes pacified, and those beings are all established in enlightenment, and the worlds that they inhabit become pure lands, or they become emptied.
我真的那么他在古松土里，我在把他们说那这个那东把上那真的别讲了，你把人那行你要去的，实际层面别着也在想那都是这种确实几管子的，他的你把的，我把这个微信看真多，听着小学啥的吧，
Mm.
真的一大一那在别马上更多的马路哇， 我真就怕新看不确松是北面上去确松咱。我真的确松人呢，他写的他吧，他的南巴弄这类，点么那么大的，
Mm.
我晓得过路上确松咱。我他这是嘛这来不中的，这边人呢写的他人前就是没写来的。我这没吃的人家家人，这也是我才看出的，这没些，我想他没看出的是，但他妈也真讲亏的，长多的那么台湾是了。我对他的他的那他这样子，但是他那这东巴是吧？我俺说的，然后确实咱们他成这种结果的是嘛？这成这种的吧？我他这趟龙也不天龙咱们是吧？
Mm. And then Magic Lantern explains on how these realms have become purified and how they come to look. And so in the hell realms, once they have become purified, they turn into like a lapis lazuli nature, and they turn into the manifest joy of Pure Land. And then the hungry ghosts, they become red ruby. The Pure Land becomes made of red ruby, very smooth. And then the animal realms become like a clear crystal, completely pure and pure of ignorance. And then the human world becomes golden, like a precious like, a gem. And then the demigods, they turn into this is it like jade? It's like a green because green is related to jealousy, a green gem. And then the gods and the god realm becomes luminous, empty and luminous, and pervaded by five different lights. So this is the instruction, the explanation or description given by Magic Lapton.
我真的他这里他中学设计有点我说中学设计他那嘛也当把我看着我他说他光晓自己看中光晓中他说他光晓自己看中是，在球场中嘛他说咱国宝原天看中是，对这种人间中咱这话来出有多的，哦他现在这边这是老百今年他连恰克他比如说连恰克，这连恰克弄中，我是那不说他说啊。他妈他这都这把讲这都那就他这把我有来是也弄是这把有马上这把有来说这把讲从上过去是吧？
Mm. So then next, there are four guests, four types of guests that are invited. They are first the guests of honor, which is the three jewels, the guru, yidam, the dakas and lakinis, and so on. And then there is the guests of qualities, and that is these are the dharma protectors, which are invited. Then the guests of compassion are the beings of the six realms, and then the guests of karmic debts. So these are the karmic creditors. So with whom we have a karmic debt, we draw them in. So we don't draw them all in, only those that we need to purify a karmic debt with.
哦，
And so
真的
then, yeah, that's all. Mhm.
真的他中写的严重你的蛮重你有了严重你那光瞧是群众的我不用天中是蛮重你那这种人间中的连恰不能中是那个吧？这咱拉啥送来的？拉上这那个
Masong,
啊
masong. Tarong sung masong.
那哎
Mhm. So then these four kinds of guests are divided into two categories. There's the upper guests and the lower guests. So that the two upper guests are the guests of honor, there's the three jewels and so forth. And then the guests of qualities, the Dharma protectors. And then the two lower guests are the guests of compassion, the sentient beings in the six realms, and the guests of karmic debts.
我真的，他之前就真的，他唐伯特光脚是群众，我们有的是那嘛也当看着了说，这是光脚是去了，他说话的，那多少呢？看着就是呢，那面前他们就特别，也当我做不得特别，看着成年做特别，我听着用个这是。
Mm. And so then these um, first there are the three guests, main guests of honor. So the higher guests of honor are the guru, yidam, and dakini. And this is what we request of them, the guests of honor. From the guru, we receive blessings. From the yidam, accomplishments or cities, and from the dakini, activities or enlightened activities.
但那但国宝云天中些，但中杨中你的国宝中天云天中呢，你有的是，但一些的你看你有啥的话，但一些在一些国宝的话，一些国宝来说，他去就是嘛来说，这是新的球。但几天去中嘛，他说搞小中中嘛，他说才科学啥的。我听广播云天中，他说话中，他真多说了起呢，广播他一些广播他说来看看。但他都去上街特别儿，真的动作去，落花去个意思。你这样子做可以开始是那看他那看不动作上去个意思。
Then there's two guests of qualities as of the protectors, which are the guests of qualities. There's two kinds of protectors. There's the wisdom protectors, for example, like Achi Chukidorma and so on. And then there's the worldly protectors and kind of worldly gods that may offer some assistance. And then this is what we request of these guests of qualities. From the wisdom protectors, we request the temporary and ultimate assistance. And from the worldly protectors, just the temporary assistance.
真的，他这种你见着，他这种你见中他的，那明白通着一大，你说有了，提这出波的了，但这两行多都说这他怕成年节下的是他做。成年节过的是，那成年节我做在别的，他当然说六七八当然把成年节同学是，严重是缺乏培养，这是我说带特别才有啥的话。
Mhm. Then there are six guests of compassion: the gods, the demigods, humans, the animals, the hungry ghosts, and the hell beings. And so this is what we offer to the guests of compassion. And for the guests of compassion, we are repaying their kindness, and the way to repay their kindness is by offering them our very body. So in terms of the higher guests, we are making an offering, and then in return we receive cities.
真的，他的两强中写的两强中来的，他按照别的东茶节去了，过两年的别的东茶节去说了，他俺们去两强系统的，然后啥子，这红龙节嘛，做的啥的，我这里他适当的学的普通东茶，你学的是哪什么某种，电梦学的日东东茶你学，多下的学某种东茶你学，图什么强样的学东茶你学，他东茶节学呢，这这样子的话就叫谁的两强中都是。这他这两讲中，这开始过程，所以他把普通说呀是怎么当？因为普通起的了，这是怕说呀，我提起，他整个做六金把当时普通做说特别，我听着有啥的话。
Mhm. And then there are the guests of karmic debt, karmic creditors, and there are is said to be 80,000 different kinds of karmic creditors, and they are divided into four categories of like 20,000 each. So there's 20,000 male demons arising from anger. There is 20,000 naga demons arising from ignorance. There's 20,000 female demons arising from desire. And there's 20,000 demons arising from all the three poisons combined. So then what do we offer to those guests of karmic debts? For them, we need to repay our karmic debt. So we still have a karmic debt open with them that has not yet been repaid. And so now by offering them the body, then we are able to repay that karmic debt.
真的咱对进那么个，我才一块拿草嘛，但如果草嘛真的我太不咱们过去啥的话，他咱们他俺做别下去有啊，他这嘛，咋话听呢？看到对进那么个拉嘛也当他，把我看到缺胸，光缺节，这周他被突然中去错，先这边的逻辑。 노지 게 무슨 빈지 풍부 다 월, 세워 다 세상살에 대마보야.
Mhm. So then next we come to the visualization of those guests. So first we visualize the space before you, that the entire space, the earth and all the intermediate spaces are filled densely with those guests like clouds and mist. And so for the first one, it says in the text, in the space in front of you, there appears the guru, um, the Vajradhara, Yidam, Dakas, and Dakinis, the three precious jewels, Dharmapalas, and the beings of the six existences in their purified form, and those beings who do harm to others through the power of spells, and those evil spirits and demons causing obstructions to others.
근데 다 토비에 노티나 뜻이 타들이요. 서로 같은 메디. 아카로 뭐 감사 설바다마 아데네 내야다 소하세 여러. 어딘가 참 시고 쇼사리.
Mhm. So then you still have this skull cup filled with nectar from before. So now I think that there's still some nectar remaining in there. And you use the remaining nectar to now consecrate the karala sinabnang gre sinabnang sa
가발리 티나 뜻이 타도라 토바티나.
ina di kaba sinabnang sa
신압
sinabnang sa
딘조들이 아카로 뭐 감사 설바다마데. 와.
ina kara sinab kara sinab ne chigre
토바티나 뜻 탕마디 쇼라 다리 로텔은지 차라 티탕마 요라타.
di ina di chu di kara chigre to
다 진압 지그래서 아카로 뭐 소티.
di sinab di gangla sinab chigora.
뭐 티킹아 티 진압 지그래서.
Okay. So then I guess we're still consecrating the nectar, the remaining nectar. We are consecrating the remaining nectar in the skull cup by reciting this mantra Om Akaro Mukam Sarvadharma. No, on the next page.
다 제카리스는 옴세나 당아 고라모레스. 제모세 도제 제모세 베차지나 서바티나 초드 노드 베드 양 티성마코 그레스 카르바 상보드. 탐자 자히자 다 노르지가 아스라 고트 님보 테 고트 옴스랴 세코 그레스.
Mhm. So then mantra here, it begins with Om. And so Om, the meaning for the so the Om is the beginning of the mantra. And in a text called the Vajra Peak, it says that it represents, it is the bestower of all excellence, such as wealth and glory, abundance and good fortune and noble qualities and all auspiciousness.
아카로네 돈 마지베 통다 돈 마지바 정도 그레스.
Then Akaro means being primordially unborn.
무캄세나 고는 코쇼사라 마지베 고 강이세나 마지베 고 강이세나 코쇼사다. 통다 안르시나.
Mhm. Then Mukam, and the next syllable is, it means like a door, the door of the unborn.
서바다르마 나세나 설마다바나사 초탐지 다 마지 고 가르선 초탐지레스.
Then Sarva Dharmanam means all phenomena. So what is unborn? It's all phenomena.
초탐지 가르선 아드네바세나 니스미바. 송진이 있습니다. 너무 고그러와.
And then Adya, the next syllable, means non-dual. So all these unborn phenomena, they are non-dual.
강이 있습니다. 그래서는 아드네오데서는 제와미바. 다 제와미바. 송진이 있습니다. 제와미바.
So they are non-dual without subject and object, and what does that mean? So that's anutbam, and that means unarisen, unproduced.
나다서는 나다 정도 테코나니 있습니다. 셈 내로 테코나니 있습니다. 와테 크로쇼 살바.
Then Natvad means that the non-duality, being non-dual with the suchness or the isness itself. So the nature of the mind is non-dual with the reality or the isness of phenomena.
엄마 아홍스는 대고성 토지 뭐. 다 친지라바. 다 고성 토지. 아홍스 고성 토. 뭐 친지라바. 다 자나도 더 친지라마 친지라바.
Then with Ahong, we bless um, and we bless the nectar as the essence of enlightened body, speech, and mind. So the nectar becomes consecrated with the essence of enlightened body, speech, and mind by saying Om Ahong.
这批一下，这南托就吧，咱马大边南托是就吧。
And pet means to cut through impure thoughts.
我这说哈是吸收吧，同大吸收没同大。
And Soha means establishing the foundation.
我真的在听到两种动呢，真的都是这俺嘛的上啥在家松上，真的看到吃着普通说吧，经济拉呢，真的但中这种家都这不管，这几个不管都是长做松长的等做松咱们在这里马城多的配生中咱们家都这不管也都是长的做了吧，今天确实那么多。
Oh yeah. So then next, so then this is recited 3 times. And by reciting it 3 times, then think that now after this consecration, the nectar becomes even more sublime than before. It becomes perfect in fragrance and in taste. So then after this consecration, then next, so it says then here, then so then from those guests, from the tongues of the guests, white light rays in the form of vajra tubes touch the nectar and they partake it. So vajra like tubes, like straws of light, come from the guests' mouths, and then they drink that nectar.
我真的的挺多屁之前早吧当就把这个本来那么他把那么就写的我们阿红很多，他的呀中的安中西医吧，其实咱培养都是培养是吧？
Um, and then it continues with the offerings to the mouths of the glorious root and lineage gurus, those of great kindness, Omahung. So then, whenever we say Omahung, then the offering is made to these particular recipients of the offering. So here it is the root and lineage gurus.
我真的那么去举办，他早晚就别那么他们去举办，都是做的各种途径，就年轻钱，他都是钱，投你不穷钱，但是点的让了其他托往的我说是托不从上，但是我嘛我的咱们可怎么让过来是？
Mm. So then those gurus, the lineage gurus, they drink the nectar and their body, speech, and mind are pleased and satisfied. And then, having satisfied them, imagine that you now receive their blessings, empowerments, and siddhis or accomplishments. And then you say Omahong at the end of each offering, and that is for each of these types of guests. You obviously Omahong at the end.
我特别吃可能能听到，也他们绝对是当这边，也他们经过咱们讲他说那么些的，我嘛阿红很多。
And then next are the Yidam deities. So then in the text it says this Amrita is being offered to the Yidams of the 4 tantras with the deities of the countless number of mandalas or mahong.
我真的古松头，他就他们来配的，有时也他们他做的古松头，你看，真的我这他说 top 松上，我在这块的山中公嘛，这块的这是他那么的，其他的我这他 top 松上我学才。
So then having this offering to the Yidams, then their body, speech, and mind are satisfied and pleased. And then just like before, like with the gurus, then they bestow accomplishments and blessings and empowerment. So then it is similar to the previous kind of guest.
我他这趟天呢，他当我说的，当我说在这楼梯，他金巴当学了楼梯下去了吧？我他金巴当楼梯开始先呢，他我说下场中这怎么当就嘛，都是在的亲戚拉是吧？我这都是亲戚拉呢，他让他中途就看了看到，可能他有咱们他了点呢，头年我去买这个，但是开始让这都是那我这波这这咱们这过去什么别讲的，生活上强多了，我那他连下中这个他说生活上强中的，他开始过呢，让他中途说。可能从开始讲，提倡嘛，提的新着样没的，听着有咱们听着，我说啥的，你嘛，我做的嘛这那种嘛的，就说人前情况是这个， 이만 아 보고 있어. 대신 돈이 없어. 되나. 나라 미바 제 양미 칸을 그거나 참만 보이나 제 랍도도 해 봐봐.
음,
돈도 이렇게 하다.
음,
대신
그
나
다른,
나는 나 매바 제 양미 참만 되게 지나
음,
이슬람도
음,
이제
음,
그래서 생게 되시 인게도 아 대신 돈도 좋아.
die culture zu rinchen tenga di kare,
소리는 이제 말한다. 아, 된
chole,
얼마 봐라. 정도 이렇게. 아, 지
oh, mhm,
어, 된나 이자세 야안종데 다들 배차 연로 가르고나 다시 다지라서 자신나 되나서 참마 표야 만종도 가르고나 양대 칸을 칸도 양대 참마 날 매바제 장매바데 참마 표지 남도 된다고
mhm,
고셔서다 나서
mhm,
양대 나도 도시나 도시 보제 인상된 지금 그렇게 말해
mhm, mhm. Um, so when we offer our body, then so we should not don't think of this of the body that you're offering as this ordinary body of flesh, blood, and bones. But since you have consecrated it, it has become it has turned into pure nectar. And so it's no longer this physical form of flesh, blood, and bones, but also think of it as not just nectar, actually, either, but think of it as becoming whatever the guests wish for. So, whatever it is that's, for example, the comic creditors, whatever they desire, I think that it becomes just that. It's not that everyone gets the same nectar, but the nectar turns into whatever they actually want, and also it becomes inexhaustible as much as is wanted. There's this text that I used to recite when I was young. It comes from um, a Rangjung Dorje, previous karma poem. They're a precious garland of um,
先听完说的
uh, tolerant. It's like a isn't totally like a false is it a feast offering practice of the precious garland. Anyways, in that text it says, "Nothing is mine. I give it all," and that kind of stuck to me too. When I'm giving something, then I'm holding nothing. Back as my own. I offer whatever artists need, and I think that may the offering become whatever they need. For example, any of the seven royal emblems or the auspicious symbols and so on, whatever they need, I give it without holding back, without holding anything as mine. So think of the offerings like that, not just as simple nectar.
근데 다 랑이스도가 다른 데로 남한초 다들 인사만 근데 피이세 다들 피이세 한테도 피이세 랑지 얘기 교배 바오당 칸로세 너자바나 바오당 칸로 공초는 뭐 남바 좀 담바 이些추종 좀마 이些健康的吧투게당 토톱 원초 안이 봐 남라 시트 물로 셀라도
Mm.
대마로
Then the next offering then is the dakas and dakinis. So then this amrita is next being offered to the dakas, dakinis, three precious jewels, dharmapalas, those who possess the eye of wisdom in the perfect realm of dharma dhatu, who have compassion and power. Pamahong.
네 손에
Yeah, Lasso?
等等，广播原天跟中厕所配呢，咱广播原天中厕所配呢，等等，这些钱呢，再挖汤点吧。等咱这个做你们来去对，等给钱就做话题，他送俺做做话题的那个软了做，我给钱就拿今年拿不出投票，我真的就有敲在前部去点吧，就有敲在前部的目前，前部去我前部点吧，查询解压，我前头去的弱化的去投个的是。
Mhm. Um, And so then those are protectors of qualities. They are then delighted and satisfied by the offering, and then they become allies, and they radiate love and clear away obstacles. So then they become our allied friends and that remove all of our obstacles. They become protectors, and and then also on top of that, they then engage in activities to spread the teachings of Mahamudra.
我真的，他这里咱样提这吧，那多配车了，或者吧，通马明白呢，他妈他这人气的，看不上这种，或者别车那，是吧？多我才东西提的。
Then next in the text it says, "Pet, this Amrita is being offered to the sentient beings in the 6 realms of existence in their purified form. Um, this wait a minute. Oh,
Rigro
okay, yeah,
Katsena, that was
until here. Yeah, until there.
Tene, that's a rigro ninja control. That is Jitam Dron rigro Tonda Mambo Talab Saratari. What a rigro ninja Dron Tene, rigro Kilencha Holon, and Dron that another rigro to the Dungaso Chene, thank you, Deva, Tamba Top Somon Samtatele, Tane, what?
So then we already know who these compassionate guests are. So the compassionate guests and the karmic creditors, they are then freed from their sufferings since beginningless time in samsara, through countless lives in the 6 classes, and finally attain lasting bliss or lasting happiness.
tene, ta zaba te zira, te Kurang Nang Ju Ti Nang San Dua, Se Chi Zo Ke Len Cha, ta nga zo Ce Tung Tung Do, Ji Wang Ge Ma Zi Tong Nga Rang Zo, Sim Chen Sok Ju Mang Bo Jin, So Ce Tung Ge Re La Gu Rwa, Se Chi Zo Ke Len Cha, De Dung Na Ce Len Cha, ta nga zo Ka Yin Na Sa Mang Bo Yung Ru, Te Nge Ma Ji Wang Ge Ma Sim Chen Dong Ya, Da Man Da Qin, Te Le Den Na Se Ke Len Cha Re Es, Gun Chou, Se Nor Ke Len Cha, Gun Chou Ka Xie Ta Jie Jue De Wu Pong, Mang Bo Yung Shu, Te So Den Ne, 他所说有那怕说着呀，那这么的有可是说那这活动可能加的也是，我在这个他被推荐中去错那么些，是但连加活动中可以说是，我觉得当我们阿红咸阳啊，在老上呀，老上，
Mari,
完了
no,
唐不清了在老上的，设计做可能加，这个东呢这连加，工作活动连加，拉说的这个他被推荐中去错些，我们阿红是，我到这是很多。在楼上骂我，在我
no.
是。
Um, and then next, so then it says, uh, then, uh, then during those periods of lives, I've taken, now there's the karmic creditors. So, and then we have taken lives, have beaten others and stolen others' possessions, and now I'm indebted to them. So now we in previous lives we have created various karmic creditors. So there is different kinds of karmic debts. There is the karmic debt from killing and cutting short the lives of others. There's also the karmic debt from having abused others, caused them pain through beating and hitting them and so on in past lives. And then there's the karmic debt that comes from stealing, robbing, just taking the things of others. And so as a result of these, and now in this lifetime, we experience a short life, or we are also being abused, or we have our wealth stolen. Even if we have it, we may have it stolen from us. So all of this comes from these karmic creditors. Um, Hva prater du også om? I denne. So, um, yeah, I think we already read our Derek. So yeah, this is all offered to the compassionate guests of the 6 realms and the karmic creditors, those lower guests our home.
我真他在连下活动中过去是在咸阳的前天研究是他在编制不同是让老百今年提了说啥吧，我记弄的错上基本上，他这种老百穷样，这几万你们怕老百姓，他说是可能过的是我这样的这说了，他怎么让我说的是。
Mm. So then next, again, we make an offering to the karmic creditors. So we offer to the obstructing spirits who cause harm through evil spells, curses, and various other destructive forces. And so the reason, again, why they can cause harm is because we have harmed them in a previous life. So now I make an offering to them with all my home.
我真的他可能是那现在他听中我嘛这说他恐怕这说呢，确保平台上操作这把讲，我嘛这说呢，他就是龙牙一双参这把讲，连下火龙枪，他们这对这些上嘛上节课嘛，他不送咱们中嘛这，他逻辑我心中，所以我这没看出来是这上节他不送咱。
Mm. So then, in essence, we make offerings to those higher guests, and by making these offerings, we accumulate merit and purify obscurations. And then for the lower guests, when we make an offering to the lower guests, then we purify their obscurations, and we also purify the karmic debt that we have with them. And we imagine that they all receive exactly what they have wished for. So this is really the main part of the practice, the main visualization.
但几天钟去在那的古啥宿舍，这也差这些人多来去。我真的给我的我话去，真的可以在金八节前说，但我话主动的这也是。
So Chitin Sumgur's Gosali Church goes until this point here. So here at this point, Chitin Sumgur's Gosali Church ends, and one can end the practice with dedication prayers.
我真的他挺久的，他敲在琴不刚，人把下来，敲在琴不人把下来的，他挺久的，运动我做吧，他对演习吧，你有的是，因为我们团大同我这样，他对学的演习呀，是吧？
Mhm. Um, Tingnan ko itup na yore ba?
做不到那么多的，
Mentok okay.
这个课程也听了不会的，
Rere.
嗯，
Okay. So then next, so after the dedication, then there's another
这
section with
这可能做
uh,
不到那敲在琴不刚，人把下来了，多点了，
mm,
嗯，你说，
um, in our text, I don't know which page we're on right now, but on our text after the whole main part, it says that you now rest in Mahamudra. So oh yeah, here on page 23, at the very end, it says rest in Mahamudra. And so then this is where the sadhana ends, but there is more on that part of Mahamudra here in the commentary. And so it says that there are two sections to that, resting in Mahamudra. And so one is to like, realize the mother's kind of nature, and the other one is the cutting the four demons into space.
我真的他唐博的那个唐博当运动我这样的是吧？这可是唐博甚至当嘛是，唐博甚至当嘛汤，我出我你有是那么多的了。
Mhm. So the first one is the instructions on realizing the nature of the mother, and that is also twofold. This instruction, and that is number one, holding the mind, and number two, holding the mind instructions, and number two, pointing out instructions.
真的唐博这可是真的刘南南球队都过的是，他刘南南球队，他真的他忙不在忙起啥苦个话，那把那球队都，这可是都嘛懂，他如果长波这进来这都过的是，俺弄让说下是，他弄把让我下面这次俺弄干的那种，他里面把让我下是，先推送多块做把机是吧？是，他推送那么多次怕这那么进出送样种，让那么多嘛搞样种，他里面机吧，他把让我弄下是，我下的机是俺那么多。가 치마 마치와 다대시 바뀌지 데코나 소강 샤스와다 나르크 남포트 반 가살 다대 남 치마도 마치와 다대 남포도 시바 소마세 소마세는 자 서바는 거 가서 소마세는 어디 간다 서 샤고레스
So then, regarding the first instruction, the instruction of holding the mind, it says, for this, sit in the 7-point posture of Vairocana. Most of you are familiar with that posture. If you can't sit in this posture, at least try to have a straight back, then that's fine. Then next, let your breath flow naturally, meaning that don't try to hold it or force it, just breathe naturally. And then cut through all the thinking, the conceptual thoughts, the thinking about the past and future, and the past, present, and future. And also don't try to block thoughts either. So past thoughts are gone, future thoughts have not yet arisen. Allow your consciousness to rest gently in just this fresh awareness. So fresh awareness means this present moment of awareness.
我真的他听留下的，然后那么多接送呢。 베핀 초와서 베비 다 디신 초원잖아 나로 시장스 나로 시장선 다 최다 전반만 와 지도 다 냠내강 소 샤고 다 연이 손세 검자 청 말에 어떻게 뉴티 전반만 와 소장고 그래서 원지 제양스 존나 종치스 다 원지 제양 존배 종치 모르스 싫어 마소르데 남소 쳐도죠 다 연이로 그래 근데 남소 침보면 칼리티스 초시들 나로 된 기랑고 마소나데 검자 청 말와 我在中学亲戚在我们中国去过，是我在他亲戚在我们中国去过，学习进步去了，是的，自己说说他们家的亲的，亲戚听着马上去，咱们说说自己深入常常哈嘛，我听着兄弟全把自己耳机，我听这娘的去过学啥的哇。
Mm. So then next, as you're in this state of present awareness, when thoughts momentarily arise again, then cut them immediately and maintain the practice, return to the practice just as before. So that essentially means don't get distracted, because if you get distracted, you are not meditating. And if you find yourself lost in distraction, then recognize that as a fault. That's really crucial, because sometimes those thoughts like slowly just build up, and we don't even notice how we are actually following these thoughts, how we are distracted, until we are totally swept away. And then we can't actually meditate at all. So it's important to recognize that, and then to make a resolve, a firm resolve that I'm going to do better. I won't allow this to happen again. And then with that resolve, this commitment, then try to like reawaken your awareness.
我真的前边去送的，我去光被亲用村着是，但那跑的，这是用的这样着呀，是用村着的呢，这这个马托他偏嘛，就是他这个村住那年来讲过什么，他先把他马进来这个意思。
And then you remember this resolution of sustaining mindfulness over and over again, and you keep practicing, and eventually thoughts will lessen. And so it says that for now, for the time being, do not practice anything else but this. So do not use any other methods at this point.
我真的这他有人不做光芒的，光被那跑出不穷那是当然我们跟那个，但那跑啷回让我说那跑没多头个嘛吧，
Mhm.
那跑出的那真的那跑出穷那让看对头，这个都是年度涨皮，是这他现在个样的，现在我说单钱世界有了，他真正我现在这个都是穷穷人那个其中我听着在了，没他这打过来是。어때서 가르잖아 세 감정 사례 리카도 지디스 사마 카좀 사세 초사 때 많이 왔지 나내 담보이나 시다 요즘 뭐 네트워크 말와 어텐주 지 어텐체랑 아시 아마 저거 소마들 장사 한텐 텐주치 한 삼고 변만 지나 렉셔사 삼자 도제들 샘디 어ten에 양 소마들 장한테주 치고레스 대답다 렌이 짝세이 사곰 니리 어다 어다
Nirerera.
我这代表他你早岁数，那你早岁数，我们你来这些像你妈的，这到了前边，那么多小钱吧，贴起成都是，我这那么多小钱不呢？第一次把贴的都要看到有是，啊，咱们那方被忙忙出，他光是教养会上嘛的，真的用不着。我听对成都这他成都去那第一上那么多贴成都主要偏小啥的哇。
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. So then next, then after that, after practicing that, if you find that thoughts still remain and you're still quite agitated, even after practicing this for a prolonged time, um, this notice what to do next, because this happens. We, especially as beginners, we just can't be just without thoughts. They will always come back. There will always be some thoughts. So then, when they persist, when the thinking persists, then it says that then next you could visualize a golden vajra at the size of a barley grain in front of you. And this is actually a form of shamatha, calm abiding practice. It's a shamatha with the support being the vajra that you visualize, the golden vajra, that you focus your full attention on. And it says, just for a short time, it says, focus on this vajra with your full attention for as long as it takes to eat 3 mouthfuls of food. So for a beginner, that's enough time. Because in the beginning, we can't stay too long without having any thoughts. and then again return. So as you focus on that, then again return to the natural unfabricated state. So you drop the support, the focal object, and return to that natural state from before. And then you can keep alternating. So you can keep focusing on the Vajra and then resting in the awareness. And it says practice this about 21 times. And if you do this daily, then strong thoughts, powerful thoughts, they will gradually come down. Even if they don't go away right away, they will slow down. So they will calm down somewhat if you practice this every day. So
근데 다 티키라 카시 티키 마베나스 티 마베나타 양 더젠 차도랑 드 통화 코스도 원스 상지 좀 되네 특别원고 코스 고음네 와다 체중된 총 강한 잠세 다 중중 고음네 다스 고음도 고레 스타스 고음这可是呢，在今上节前他们就样子，但是说偏修啥的，上节前他们就让错做样子，说偏修啥，他也就上节过程是光过来是，先你嘛当着我的是。
and then if that doesn't help still, then instead of the Vajra, you can visualize the Buddha Shakyamuni, small, about the size of a thumb joint, like an inch size, also in front of you. And this is also helpful because it can bring you blessings, the Buddha's blessings, and also you accumulate merit. And then the rest of the instructions are as before, in terms of coming back and resting in the natural state.
真的，他这种体片什么多呢？他马片呢，拉马的马去，拉不中也没把我们的穷穷是光过去噻。我真的现在皮些，他皮扎着些了，我扎上上着的些。真的，他这规律是那么强着，别差不多吧，是不管过去没那么强不了反正，这我们的看他头发没把可以三寸着去了，然后他就这么当回事了吧？从看咱们谁穷呢？前面从看咱说呢，你说啥子他说？这马自他让去留着，也是马自配送咱们这相对过来是。但这当昨天他说多的，肯定是想着对，真正他这有了吧？而且这个配着这种盲目这红浆是红，他就有了吧？啊，真正的就是完事啊。
Mhm. And then if this is still unsuccessful, then visualize the guru inseparable from Maji Labdrun. So then she appears as Maji Labdrun, all of a sudden, in a small form, like almost as if coming out of nowhere, and with a body that is small, like an inch tall, but fiery and solid, like meteoric iron, and blazing with a fierce presence. And this small form appearing out of nowhere then penetrates your body from all the directions with wild sounding wrathful pets. And so focus on this like within kind of intensely, and then after focusing on this intensely, then come back to resting in the natural state. So this method removes the obstacle to your meditative stability. And actually also it may be a bit similar to a Dzogchen practice, that is the core division, the separating samsara from nirvana, where we also work with this various syllables like hong and so forth, to cut through our perceptions and delusions.
真的，他这代人没错平安，就讲说的，俺没错安是空虚，他本嘛这讲过去了吧？这那么多钱嘛，确实那么多钱，看就忙就对是兄弟的呢。等年是这花起，看看把十万，说他等年是花起是特别是。我等年是这个花起的是花起，等年怕是他脾气过的是个说，做这他脾气，现在许多要是要嘛，说先偷去。 成本蛮严嘛，去，真的在咱们来讲讲多下，他就面上多少岁的，或者试一下，这都要得搞得差不多。
Mm. Mhm. So then focus intensely on this, and then again you rest in the non-conceptual state, and then you can alternate between the different methods just mentioned. And it is said that this method can also remove the obstacles to your meditative stability. So we have to apply different methods skillfully while still staying um, undistracted and relaxed. And so we just all we can really do is apply different methods. So there's really nothing else that we can do to clear the obstacles. We can just alternate between different methods like these.
tene 다 간도 나 tene 탑테 남지 ngārshi nyam yachi te ngārshi nyam nachi siam shikba hansang tangsang so sam siam di sa tangsang jido ne ba chung so da tendu chung zi ge sen no sam no so go ban kangjung kangdu chen to top jin so da ze kangdu ze chen to sharwa kapse siam sam no so go ban nam jang kangdu chen to so da ze kangdu do ze chen ta sam da ko rong ge ra sam sen da men ko rong ge ra ko ta da ja chen top ze zong na ma sang ji ga
Mm.
연
Uh,
어떤 제한을
mhm.
줘 있던지도 면도 있지 남포당 제용을 제용을 스타레스 공자한테 남포도 있는데 디스 공자도 디스 남포인데 된주 차원 그래서 너 테크 카운터 먼저 제한 거와 最近 공자도 남포 망 그래 그 레카 싫어요 말로 샤티 섬도 당야 망 그래 뒤서 망도 있네 와 대칭 그래 신의 총도 배반적으로 그래서 와 신의 소도 디스 내야 한다고 섬도 된주 거 그래
So through these methods, when you rest in equipoise, then these may help to make your mind become clear and stable in the practice. And so it says that your mind will be clear, so you will be able to think what you need to think of if you wish so, and remember what you wish to remember, without being kind of swept away or dragged away by other thoughts that like unwanted thoughts. So generally, of course, thoughts we don't have to try to think what we want to think, because thoughts will come either way, and we can't really control it. But at least here we will have those necessary thoughts and not the unnecessary thoughts. And so it happens when we meditate. We have these thoughts, and then we rest for a little bit in meditation, and then thoughts still arise again. And sometimes people actually even think that they now even have more thoughts than they had before they ever meditated. Now that they're meditating, it seems that the mind is much more active, and that's really just because you have nothing else to do. So that's why it seems there are so many other thoughts. So this way of us returning to the practice, this is the way of practicing, the proper way of practicing calm abiding, shamatha.
와, 가운데 다 네가 없어 시바 메시지 참사다 메시지 그래. 뭐무세다 뭔바로 이 스텝들 이렇게 잘라 줘. 튼삼스 몽신 쳔바 메시 튼삼나 제 담무 투마네. 시라 쳔바我们的。我听着用这个的是，我在青蛙这边的拍意思，我在青蛙忙不有点不青蛙提高那肉松子，听上那是我们听下周的是，我听着都那是一节的嘛，刚被讲的嘛，我听着也是啥在之前跟我是这样做过的是。我没钱的，他这块在说呀，第这样或者穷的呀，这样个，这眼巴他西图呀有的是，然后咱这有的，他在那做出场的，或穷的干嘛他别干哎，我曾经有的，这人都在的实际拿过这些，但呢在做老做出去，我曾经的在出山的些，我在讲呢，哈，西图呀偏多少哇，
Mhm. Um, and so um, then if during this practice, so if your mind becomes unclear and a bit dull and heavy, you become a bit drowsy, especially in your like post meditative state. You become a bit dull and a bit like oblivious in a way. You don't really just a bit like dull. And then during that time when that happens, then see this, recognize this. Now the, this mental sinking, this lack of mental clarity is building up, and so when that happens, to counteract it, you should go to a place that is a bit higher in an elevation, like a rooftop, for example, or a mountain top, and a place that's a bit cooler, has an open space, and then at that place gaze in an upward direction in order to lift up, sharpen your awareness again. And then again, you meditate with a strong attention, and this will clear away the dullness. And then sometimes when many thoughts appear and the mind is very agitated, then you should apply the opposite. So then when the mind is very agitated, then you go to a more dimmer place and a more warmer place, a more confined space, and you also can wear warmer clothing, so that can calm down the mind somewhat.
你忙个做后别解决的开始呢，路下工着这总了松油，想下乡着这热了小体是，
Uh,
这路在它下着哇，路就下着哇，
mhm,
这总刚那脏小是，它差不多有啥好，
mhm,
脏小，现在它讲可能也热了要小体是啊，我这，
mhm, mhm. In the past in Tibet, we would say that when you go into retreat in this isolation, my body, I put my body into a prison, so the material flesh body, I put lock it up into a prison of the retreat. But then the mind is like a wild wolf escaping into the mountains.
我这这想着是的，是吧？
So then you lose your mind that way.
在这前那塔子，你把我出些，他不那塔子，你把我出些的情况，我出的，你把这看，这看哪来错了呢？他写评我打过来，写打过来，他想我看这个打过来的。
And then second, so the first one was the kind of introduction, and now second is the actual instruction, and so like the pointing out, and that is so while you're remaining in the previous state, you're turning your awareness inward to look directly at the essence of the mind.
真的是这样，都在去那往那操场，结巴了蛮人哇，咱们在去那往那操场嘛，那看到下上来，这时候他真把小松的那时候真能帮助人着学的，真没有呢，他讲那往提起，那学了什么的，所以真那时候带路边那路把送了，那我面前先把球鞋那路把是，这先把这救过来是，这那往这呀都咱们这从这桥上么从学着学了那种。我这样对提桥上么什么嘛有啊，其呢，但他那话子，我那些那话子想不说了个，那个那话子让他做的说不得是有什么的。
And then next you rest without distraction within that state, without being distracted by various external appearances. And so normally we are distracted by various appearances. There's various things that manifest, like we see different colors and all sorts of sensations that we see, that we encounter. And so then if you begin to grasp at them, if you kind of follow them, then you lose your mindfulness. If you do not cling to them, if you just let them be, then they are not no problem. Tilopa said to Naropa, he said, Naropa, it's not the appearances that bind you, it's your attachment to the appearances that keep you in bondage, and therefore cut through the attachment, the clinging attachment. It's because when we cling, when we kind of become like carried away by these appearances, then that leads to thoughts of attachment and aversion. And actually, all these appearances that manifest, they are not these some solid, truly existing things. They actually, there's nothing that's really substantially existing out there. It's actually essentially all made by the mind.
我就是么那里边这种了，去那往其他那拉的是，马多村人吹那的是，马多村人吹那的，有几先把千万是，有几先把球从千多的是，多把弄了他可能是。 toba nangla lakuna yunang semje chos xars yunang ma sama sem chos xar gres nyamna chi ya chos xar gres
Milarepa said that whatever outer appearance manifests, if you do not recognize its nature, it will become a confused appearance, a confused perception. By through the mind chasing after the object, the mind becomes caught up in clinging. However, if you realize its nature, then appearances manifest as the form of the deity, and then all appearances become supports or friends along the path in your practice.
我真的让娘娘汤接触汤对呢，那么我这边也是的，让娘娘接触进的，但那在那边我出去过的种多。
And so then the Lama, the teacher, then must give the instructions, these introductory instructions, in accordance to the students' personal individual experience.
我这几岁没来的吧，俺妈的老妈真多，种他妈不是，我种他妈不是，父母真多，这咱吃饭嘛不是当的，当然的皮的就这个没吃饭当这里。我这吃饭当的这几岁没来去，但是我在光节就有个没别，俺都学识的咯，讲说在光节这，还得肯定没别光些就是，我真的可能哪怕在光些就，他没别光些就是那个有了的，嗯。这里么，他光在家，这，他就是没来看这穷事，这咱娘娘的，咱就吃饭当小菜的，这是么看的肉光的对了，这是肉都光的对了的，我这肉光的对了的，自行光的种嘛的是，我这南瓜光的对了的，沙克光把种嘛的是，江苏光的对了的，巴拉光把种嘛的是，ram山光的对了的，南坡光把种嘛的是。我在许多的，就是没他的开始从我身体烂的，开始从我身体拉的，是我光在带拉呢，事情是我全球的事，是我刚在提供了下事，南块光在带拉呢，南块光在的，啥看那个全，昨天我昨天我大概啥看的老说，昨天那个全球的事，我昨天那个全球的事，对南块可能刚学事，江苏光在带拉呢，巴拉。讲说全球意思，讲说可能很好的下次，让什么国的对了，那那不什么全球意思，这什么可能很好，咱你们去中是我听着中多，我听着弄的在我说这听着去学啥的哇，你妈你妈，
Milarepa had a disciple, the girl Dharma, and she asked many questions. Actually, she was also the one who asked about the different pets. But now in a different story, Milarepa gave her meditation instructions. And so he said to her, let your meditation be like a mountain, unmoving. Let it be like an ocean, um, deep and without surface or bottom. And let it be like the sky, without center or boundary. And so she went to meditate, and then Milarepa at some point asked her how did it go? And this is customary. The teacher checks in with the student how the meditation is going. And then she replied, so when I meditated on a mountain, I felt at ease. But then when the trees and the bushes came to mind, then I felt uneasy. And when I meditated on the sky, I felt at ease. But then when the clouds appeared, then I felt uneasy. And when I meditated on the ocean, I felt at ease. But then the waves appeared, and I felt uneasy. When I meditate on my mind, I'm at ease. But then these thoughts arise, and I'm not at ease. Milarepa replied to that. He said, "So if meditating like a mountain felt easeful for you, then rest right there, seeing the trees and bushes as the display of the mountain itself, a part of the mountain. if you feel at ease when meditating, resting in the sky, and clouds make you uneasy, then see the clouds as the sky's own display. They're nothing other than the sky. The clouds are the sky. And then if it's easy to meditate on the ocean, then understand that the waves are just the play of the ocean itself. And if you're at ease when resting in the mind, then even when thoughts arise, see the thoughts as the mind itself and just rest within the thoughts as mind. So this was his instruction to her.
근데 다 들이마 들라도 샘데 네베 되게 고종 주제장 라나 랑세 되이바 지리양 차도 서워 지양 차도 비례 사례데 와다 샘데 네베 되는 고송도 요 말와 고송도 요 말고 나 스트레스 고송공제 초데스 거기로 와서 요 말와 더 지즈만라레 배송도 다베 샘라 돈이 샤스 다베 샘라 돈이 샤스 다중고 되장미스 다베 독수 상의 총스다
This joke does, I'm sorry. Mm.
다베 샘라
Milarepa. Mhm,
다베 샘라 돈이 샤스
mhm,
다중고 되장미스 다베 독수 상의 총스 고송도 같은 저 살데 다베 샘코나 돈이 샤르 그래서 다디나 대답에
mhm,
고종 좀 미바진스 란나 란세세 와셰제 양차르도 서와다제 양차르 거고 다 메샤르산다 샤르 거 안자면은
mhm, mhm. And so then when the mind is resting, so then this next is the instruction that would follow from the guru. So when the mind rests, there is nothing there to identify it as. There's just this self awareness that is clear and from which anything can manifest. But other than that, there's nothing that's actually there. So whether the mind is moving or thinking or not, various appearances continue to arise, but there's nothing that truly exists inherently. Milarepa had said that when looking at the mind, by looking at the mind, emptiness arises, and there is not even the slightest thing to be seen at all when looking at the essence of the mind. And so this is when the realization of the view arises. So the viewing itself is actually empty. There is no viewing, actually, nothing to view. And within that empty nature, anything can arise, and anything does arise. There's various appearances constantly manifesting.
저는 주외 그 오원이지 유지동스 교통스 어떤 교통나 내나 동바리 주나 동바리 단 준로 남도 소초도 야 말왕아서 주세나 남도로 봐야 샤 소초도 야 말레스 我这人对这我嘛写的是在送这都这送的差都差差在送的这这可别刚才写的写的咱这都可让俺说听我写什么了我这几次没来的可是我说 남주와 이제 남피에스 남주와 이제 남피에스 마토트는 말이지 세트는 마토트 말이
This 어떤가 욕자서.
야양
Mm,
지금 말하려 그래서
mm,
남주와 이제 남피엔데스
mhm,
마토트는 말이
mm,
레뇨 몽군지 시차이스 레뇨
mhm,
몽군지 자완다 자창으로스 제 마토트 말이 되는데 남도몽 초원이 마토트는 말이 레뇨 몽군지 시차이 또나라의 이시데스 또나라의 그렇게 이시스라 그랬어 我让一些的，多拿让的一些的，
mhm.
我到那让的一些的，但是那样的。
Right. And so, and even when the mind, so when the mind is moving, that is when it's thinking, these movements in the mind itself are empty by nature. So various appearances continue to arise clearly, but still there is nothing substantial to hold on to. There's nothing really there. It's just that when we don't understand that, we keep clinging to whatever arises, and then the more you get caught up in thinking, the more the difficult it gets, the more like kind of convoluted the mind becomes. And Milarepa had said that the inner moving mind, when not realized, becomes the basis of ignorance. The consciousness, when not realized, becomes the basis of all karmas and afflictive emotions. But when you realize that this inner moving mind, then that itself becomes self-knowing primordial awareness, wisdom.
我等就为去弄完的，没卡死了，我等就为弄完没卡死呢。他干过呢，搞呀搞的可不有了，他搞对呀，现在要嘛的，他干过呢，俺他可起过的，怕当下这个是当下呢这个嘛的，他说怎么要我当到他，真的这个说前些朋友去呢，听到这，他先跟我蛮硬把打到去呢，真的赔钱这口啥的，听到这得告诉等于，但那好像这是搞的可不有啥的吧。就是么来的，别总要开始呢，一个长松测定是，一个长松测定不测。托尔这块，这问题是，他托尔那跑的就这那一般没法说要他带口啥了，托尔这块这问题是，你们有钱没？光挣多少？但你们有钱吧没吧？在光这咱们说啥？在光明他是嘛的是？我在那些解决嘛，但过了开始讲，我说他比现在要嘛，但钱吧没人我看top去，钱给那光给，钱吧没那光没是，我这的钱别送呢，这个别先别往这块嘛送，后头去呢，真的。他在有这事情上说呢，这做没人个去过去，没人去呢，在想这个在人把口亲不口头学什么，这人把口亲不口嘛，到底这南方这个人把亲不通头学什么吧？
Mm. 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 So, although various appearances continue to arise, let them be without grasping at them, and also without trying to block them. Don't try to block them, because you can't block them. You can't stop them. Even if you try, they will still come. So we don't need to reject them or block them. We just need to stay mindful and watchful and undistracted, and just keep looking at the nature of that mind. Without trying to block anything that arises, because that will only make it worse. And without following it. Milarepa said that there are those rishis, those sages who are able to know, endure various austerities um, while holding awareness. So they are able to hold this very what I say, like a controlled kind of awareness, kind of a concentrated state, kind of a concentrated state. But actually, they are not fully mentally present, but they think that what they're doing is that they're totally absorbed in a state of meditation, when actually they are like totally gone, but not fully present. So therefore, that's not a real meditation. Meditation means to be fully present. And so these are the methods, and there's really no other methods than that. There's no other special technique. All we really need is to train in mindfulness. And if you're mindful, you're meditating, and if you're unmindful, you're not meditating. So just try to be mindful and not follow after whatever arises, and then you won't be carried away, even if things arise and you kind of register them. But if you're not totally following them, you won't be carried away by them. So don't try to follow them, and also don't try to block them. Then they also, all these thoughts, even when they arise, they won't have any power over you if you don't grasp.
我真的打起来，我真的，我总结讲没有，有可能往那说是恰，但我从头讲没有，那往那说恰上个的是，真的，哪讲讲没，那么恰听别推说是，我从就没事，但哪讲在我从头也有嘛事，但俺做在的啥，这边推从头在打错的，嘛不送学了嘛，他有什么话，真我从就没事。这在云南汤是有的，那嘛，但云南现在几个了吧？云南汤、南头汤、三。他南托现在，在重庆上三的在有的吧？ 티 네베 그거 와셈 네데 야 그거 손보든 타디 초 마드롭데 저 타디 초 요도 요 말스 예와요 말스 코란소 예와 체도야 요 말 오늘在大家那样能套出来，在野外在一起，在那的这做野外在一起，我这些抄的有嘛的，是啥说，在出在想个怎么当堂先了，在人堂在点呢，在他就野外抢着说吧，这个嘛 drop this，这野外没啥子来这个。
Mhm. And so even though various appearances continue to arise, there's nothing that it can be grasped, that nothing that truly exists uh, from its own side. And so there are these external appearances, the thoughts, and then there is the resting mind. And these three, so the appearances, the thoughts, and the still mind, the resting mind, they are actually not different from each other. So we may think that we may label them as different states. So there's the different objects separate from us, and then there is the thinking mind and the calm mind. But actually, they are not in their nature. They are not truly separate. Actually, um, so they're neither separate nor one.
我这差不多么种多，还是呢，南托两姐姐吧，求一个，南湾两姐姐吧，求给我，这些南山人民两姐姐是我的种，
Um,
南托两姐姐吧，求一个，
mhm,
南湾两姐姐吧，求给我，
mhm,
哦，这些南山人
mhm,
民两姐姐，南湾的山人民吧，两姐姐是，
mhm.
我听着咋意思嘞？
Gampopa said that the co-emergent sort of innate thoughts are the Dharmakaya, and the co-emergent appearances are the Dharmakaya's light, radiance, and that is the like the co-emergent or innate union of appearances and mind.
哦，真的，这个他钞票嘛的是那从这个嘛着吧，他们去运动吧中，但是这个的是动吧是那他动吧是工作过嘛的，过上去动吧抢着，这边没那动吧抢着什么，可是让东尼工作，东尼是工那的，啊东尼这差是是吧？
Mhm, mhm,
东尼这样这边的话，看，不松手的，
mhm,
东尼在充电这个，过上清楚的。
mhm,
我说别想开心当中，这也是做去当的，家做咱们七八嘛，习惯的是，
mhm,
习惯的。我都刚把这当小这也做人，咋些呀？要嘛的，家做人的都要嘛，或者就刚把做要嘛是吧？我听就查的，他有东他开始这蛮硬吧，前边一样，他有他东来的什么，他东北咱们好像这边的兄弟是吧？我他开始用前面写了跑到前边公巴噻，他就同他种公巴用前面写了跑到前边公巴噻，那这里也是同意思。推送节日公办意思，推咱们上节他们这个公办的意思，意思。
So these three, the appearances, thoughts, and the resting mind, they are neither different nor one, and so they are empty of self nature. And so that also means that they're empty nature. So when we often casually say we meditate on emptiness, but we're actually not meditating on emptiness because um, we don't need to meditate on emptiness. If you simply don't grasp at anything, then it will reveal itself naturally. There's nothing to meditate on. There's no emptiness to find or to meditate on. And then some people often confuse that, and they think, no, I'm meditating on emptiness, but this actually itself becomes a form of grasping. And grasping is still grasping, no matter what you're grasping at. For example, it said in some of the scriptures, it doesn't matter if it's golden chains that shackle you, or if it's iron chains that shackle you. The point of the matter is that if you're shackled, you can't walk freely, no matter what the material is of. So it doesn't matter what noble thing you grasp at. If you grasp at it, it keeps you in shackles. So even thinking about emptiness or meditating on emptiness, that's grasping actually again. And so to not grasp, thinking that things are empty, but just letting them be without grasping. This is the true meaning of the great mother perfection of wisdom's enlightened intent, and this is the enlightened intent of all the Buddhas of the three times.
真的他东巴你写些呢，这周巴车吧是，他九巴车吧是呢，他通常吧是呢，他通常吧是呢，还是老呢，他你没可老那么了，到让什么季节去嘛，这些等于我些吧，这张，这是我些挺难你们俩去的，这里是这我些挺难你们俩去的呢，这这说啥的，这多，那什么就看了说就没吧，两把下课是吧？但那是哪着？就拿着提起拿了怕，但蛮因为所求金，但那就你不七八十多们，你们去头学噻，但这是个嘞，这有点啥的，所以那么忙不出定的，现在前把这个蛮当的了，这个嘞卡，说这我们讲不到，这个嘞是啥的，这嘛多，这样他我们现在可全别讲的，可能他你就难觉的，那七八十多要嘛的是，我这所求没把这个下过来是。
Mhm. So then we may label it different things, like we apply labels like emptiness or unelaborated freedom from elaboration, or we call it beyond expression or the ultimate truth. And actually, the ultimate truth is very simple. You just need to be right now in the present moment, in this very moment, just be in this present moment. And if you can just stay in this very moment, that's all you need to do. So no matter what state of mind you're in, whether the mind is moving or it is still, just recognize what is and just stay with that and rest there. There's nothing you need to do to kind of adjust or kind of fabricate here. Just stay there. And so of course the thoughts constantly arise, and so when we always it's of course a little bit difficult because thoughts will arise, and then when thoughts arise and we don't have enough mindfulness to deal with them, then we just get tired, and then we lose our meditation, and we don't meditate. But actually, if your mindfulness is steady, if you're always mindfulness, it eventually all becomes the same to you. It makes no difference whether there are thoughts in the mind or not, whether the mind is moving or still. It all becomes the same. You just rest in what is.
咱今天中午才中午，做这个做晨写过的，晨堂写进这你特别求去早晚意思，咱今天中午才中午晨把的写进这你不，他特别求早晚意思，咱娘俩写下早晚中午他晨写是过学的是，我他中午他当听当当然三万人话去，这所求嘛就话，三毛九把那敲在前不一，是我他所求嘛就话提起呢，听当晨写是，他晨写第三过学的，晨写没那个做我们家头个嘛的，他在娘俩前不一呢，他晨写是做把第四意思。个嘛就做米前边，他做我们家特别有啥子，俺做这第四个的好过来，这些做些前吧，对啊，那对娘呢他去过学的，啥才最多才得噻，这里他俺做个生意，当下那干嘛种啊
Logic Sumgan had said that mindfulness and conscientiousness, not and alertness, mindfulness and alertness. These two are the root of all Dharma practice and are the root of all hearing or learning of Dharma. And so that is really the main thing that we need. We mainly need to be without distraction when we practice, without distraction and without fabrications. That itself, that alone is Mahamudra. So all we really need is mindfulness. If you're unmindful, you're not meditating. You can't meditate. And we often speak about this like effortless state of mindfulness, and this is something that happens at advanced stages of practice later on, when it just becomes effortless. But for us in the beginning, it does require some effort. It takes effort to practice, so we cannot just let it be effortless. We need to put some effort in the practice in sustaining mindfulness. So right now we're going to take a break for 15 minutes.
真的西卡过 취소 다다 취소 좀 받아 그러면 10시에 도서지.
So we return Chicago time at 3:45.
야, 오케이. Thank you.
So tonight we'll have Chöd practice and it'll be at 7:30. We'll have it here and online. Thank you.
Last, then that's the thing. That's a yeah, okay. 다리 다잡에 삽진다고 니와. 와다 셈고 초치야. 너희 봐. 너희 연수 봐세. 와다 너희 연수 봐들이다. 너희 연수 봐들라. 다 너희 연수 봐. 셰요레스 두셰. 두셰요라. 두테다 다레스 디스 달마레스. 토치에 두타. 토미 두. 가루두다. 님지 두세. 타 토치에 두세제. 토미 두세제. 가루 두세제. 님지 두세. 두셰요서와. 다 조난 두마세 세라르. 저거다 두시와세.
Now we continue with the second overall section. The first one was this the introduction together with the holding the mind and pointing out, and then the second one is then cutting the four maras into space. And so here in the context of Chöd, the four maras are a little bit different than in the other tradition, but for most of the church traditions altogether, those four maras are the same. And so the four maras of Chöd are the tangible mara, the intangible mara, the mara of the light, and the mara of a demon of conceptual elaboration. So for the most part, these are the four maras of Chöd.
다 정보 대카르세나 톡제도 있어더와 톡제도 있어 톡과다 기반다 코쇼사 톡제 자 조선 남토라야 어디 요라 톡제도 인스기반에서 다 톡제도 대카르선 다在 냠냐 치대도 삼선 냠냐 치대 차광 치에로 그래다 자 녀소 차광유 대 소자 처로 나서서 소자 처로 저기 가서 차파 치에로 와 담마가선 담마 치에로 와 텐조쇼샤는 텔데네 남토단 제바서 제시 다 톡제도 세와다 대한 톡제도 세나 테레스
The first one is the tangible Mara demon, and so that is now when grasping thoughts arise based on an attachment or aversion toward an external object, a tangible object, such as toward enemies on friends, like having an attachment to friends and an aversion against enemies, or also toward various sense perceptions of form, sound, smell, taste, touches, and so on, actual material things that we encounter that trigger certain sensations. And so that's the tangible demons. And actually, sometimes, especially when we practice at first, it seems that these feelings actually can be even stronger. Like we feel more attached, or we feel have more of an aversion and so forth. The feelings just seem when we practice a bit more intense, and so that feeling that is triggered based on the physical, the external objects like forms, that is called the tangible Mara demon.
근데 톡제도 있어야 돼 고동 카르스는 치 소모포도 댐빅 내가 티 용무제공야 테레사와 톡제도 고동
So the tangible means that that an afflictive emotion is triggered in dependence on an external object.
다 줘야 컨디시고 센터 줘도 배에 차샤나세 다 자스오나 자다 스페샤나 자다 베샤나 다 해당 바 지가산 자데 통원도 신도 못 지가사는지 이제 데디나 로마 셈마데 다 요르 바가 자 통데 당에 같이 자디다 좀나 로사로 와 텐드 이제 숑제 스티 want 마셔와 기지 피차고 자고레 스피차고 자 티 want 마셔와 지고레스 티 want 쇼는 되네 다 아토시도 want 쇼시스다
So then how do we cut this Mara, this tangible Mara? So to sever it, you think of an enemy, a strong feeling of aversion arises. So when you imagine this a situation where you encounter a disliked person, and this strong feeling that's almost unbearable, when in the midst of it, and you see the person, you just you think, oh no, what am I going to do now? And so you feel it makes you feel very bad. And so then when that feeling arises, don't fall under its power, but right at that moment, say a forceful pet, and do not fall under its power. If you allow for this feeling of anger to arise and you get lost in it, then you have been controlled or been taken by that tangible demon.
哦，这南坡的，他中用的南坡，他写当三路没，这有两个人说，哦，的南坡的中用天康阳没他，我真的怕没了，出完南坡出来的，怕就他们这西过的，他配的就当就从大回去了，配的呢，这南坡的就会看到，我真的俺去用东西，也就前面下死，但俺去他有用的我出的，在我们家嘛，我学说，我提醒俺们，你们那去过的是。
And then without judging the thought, like the angry thought, as either good or bad, or like a fault, just interrupt its momentum completely the moment it arises. And pet actually means to cut, to sever. And then rest in just the expanse of the mother's nature, just as before, without clinging and grasping. So just before, we have received various meditation instructions. So then after that, you just return to that state of meditation.
我真的，他看的是那，真的，呃，准备吃，真的这些都年堂那说了，吃什么汤是年堂那都吃什么去，所也用了吃，没我把了当就落去，但别人多年不喜欢多吃的，家哪子都讲喜欢多，身上就落了，等于些个啥的吧，先把老板着，感谢人家，上可些些东西，感谢呢，就是感谢就能去。 我反正嘛是相当，他们那说是有个的是，反正嘛是相当其他要嘛的是没讲，天气能跑有的，天气呀能跑就有的是，我在能跑超过的，俺是爬的几呢，讲过的是能跑，蓝成龙，能跑蓝进就嘛龙是我能跑的蓝前特别，蓝成龙特别，他这个去过去啥的，提往去，这蓝成龙嘛头，提往去说那都钱是啥，都钱，都钱是。你嘛，你这是东是这穷能办啥？没他这陪，他爱和这穷都钱是那这些，
La care, just go, care.
和这穷爱和这穷都钱了的那这穷可能他那的是搞啥的，都钱。
The Yugichi.
都做这真干啥了哇？啊，你这是同是，但你们俩今年吃完了，你有啥了哇？这都你有噻，这都你不在，当然你不空你这人老把起锅在哪噻？ 这都这个，这话这谁头上让你们俩写好噻？这天他给自己过脑把几口子啊，就脑把开始几口子，这玩意儿，别没是偏跑多这是。他爱脑把开始几口子，过严个严啊，把口推手做下去，人就能把你们俩亲的，他把拖没拖把去啊？这提起他给过脑把几口子是，这一天他我那脑把都晓得这样子了。相当没上说这严重啥不来去，提那推去。
Ini mi le repa don re chungpa gitti kare, como so.
他这个是这种没那的，生活写的这，但你和这种都见着的，那这就是这种这那么多可能那呢。
Ina tinga ya como son de
那
kens.
他没那这个，
Se por son.
我当然在都看着这想，就当他这种天啥吧，就生活这样看是这种沿路呢在接入这上嘛，接入沿路进步去这那了，他过马换成送了吧，这送的他都钱谁左右的让给我的。
Oh. Okay. Yeah, so then, where were we? And so then, and so similarly, you apply this practice to all sorts of clinging, like attachment to friends, and some pleasant forms and sensations. and then aversion toward unpleasant ones. Often we feel that we really are repulsed by something, we find it disgusting, we try to stay away. So this sort of thing, and then sometimes we are afraid something, or we are sad about something, or anything in between. You apply the same practice toward anything that may arise, and so it's what we need to purify is the thought, the grasping thought. So if we have this thought that there's an enemy, even if that enemy has no idea that they are an enemy and they are not actually grasping themselves, we still need to purify our own thought, and take that thought as the path, practice with that thought. Because otherwise, if we don't, then that Mara, that will carry you away and it will take you. So you must not allow your mind to become controlled by these thoughts. The tangible Mara is really is really a thought arising in dependence on the outer object and not the outer object itself. And so then, so there was this story about there were two monks meditating. There were two demons. And so then they said, we're going to harm them. So they were thinking about how are we going to harm them. And so one of them said, I'm just going to kill him. And so he just thought, I'm going to just do away with him. And so then the other one said, I'm going to just distract him, because he's spending your whole life in practice, and I'm just going to distract him, so he's just going to waste his time. And actually, that demon that of distraction is actually much worse, because if it's better still to be killed than to be distracted, because when you're distracted, you really can't attain liberation. And then there's this one time in the Milarepa said about Rajungba, because Rajungba, he had this phase in his life where he became the groom of a family. He briefly married to a woman of a king, the Yalung king. And so then Milarepa said, so Rajungba has been taken away by the Maras.
等那他自己真的都确实在配酒那等出就我的配酒的，都往他妈小了去那等出的都往说着去那反出就我的，但是听见嘛那阳光的过来真的才是一种事情，但常常才是一种事情，在南头忙的这样，在他们这有事儿我晓得就用那的，你们两个吵架过来是。
So then if when that happens, these thoughts arise, immediately say a forceful pet and cut off the momentum of that thought, and then you're cutting that Mara. And so that sometimes happens to us. This Mara arises when we practice, and just more and more thoughts and fixations, depending on various objects, arise in our mind. And so then this this forceful pet is the method to cut through this tangible Mara.
真的，咱你把这透明流的是透明流下的，透明流就把那透明流是可动开的是，其实我这样热嘛来的，这样是热没现在个那个忙不用个乱个做，就像是热没那上次多大没的生这着，多大没的那么拖着，他就用个了，就那着么的，就那着么的，我在真就那么这那么做过，像后面那所用个了。我听也是的，这几关着么？这这么的有，他们那说那么多几万人的是，我他听就在下龙，那光家头去嘛，他的呢，在就那做那么不下的，这光刚那样光，别人那点那跑出加什么？这大话这说先求全部这两户呢，这光家头要刚刚用过的哇，这人就是拉么的哈，下来配这件出呢，啊人把下过来是的，啊他的在那一把是俺们来去提纲，这下过来也算多。
The next is the intangible Mara, and that refers to thoughts that arise without depending on external conditions, an external object. And these can be various feelings, like feelings of happiness or unhappiness, worrying about things. So often we worry about for no real reason. Actually, we just worry, or we are excited for no real apparent reason. There's no outer object that makes you excited, or you're afraid, or you're very sad and depressed about something without any external trigger, for no reason really. You just feel that way. So you have all these emotional highs and lows kind of coming out of nowhere, and that without any outside kind of stimulus. And so when that happens, when they arise, then you can't meditate. If you're caught up in these ups and downs, you can't meditate. So therefore, when these thoughts and feelings arise, cut them again sharply by saying pet, and then allow them to dissolve in this like the open space of the mother, or just come back to the natural state as before.
근데 다들 다 손바닥 가루도 세더라. 가루도 세라서 컨트롤에서는 다 가루 하르 주비는 다 라마 상보라고 돼. 라마의 초주에서 상보요 봐. 다 라나 개조한 페로와. 我曾经有的他我在推荐中吧，他说的推荐中呢，曾经有的当俺学文上的，像从这的见着学啥的吧，我在从这些啊，在各种各对来学什么的，在研究生对来生啥的，我在俺家的呢，他俺家是去的，他俺家是学，他俺都没都，他俺那么要我这有，就要我这有，他俺学文什么都可以，你看中我这工钱哪有啊，还是。친구 좀 이제 말에 또 해줘. 세트들이 가시가 찾아 친구 있어. 가시가 조카 친구 있어. 가시가 엄마 친구 있어. 뭐 뭐도 생각 안 집에요. 니 하고 요거 하더니 나야 뭐 줘. 나 봐도 적셔 있어. 내가 뭐 냠내 마음이 강하시. 어때 텐동 생각 자세 있는 데 가루 뒤지 생각해요 사례. 생각 찾아 있어. 나 찾아 친구 냠내 싶어. 쓰네요. 어떻게 용도 와. 어떻게 가루 뒤 세트 사례. 我这智囊壮囊金的，俺家是，我这我弄完这这，咱们能跑这些，因为你们刚刚或者忙不着喝的，我这人就是呢，他各种对这怕也修过来，实际上这当他来批一下这个你们家呢，对啊，我们去摸起来跑着去没中到的，我你们是去过来是。
Next is the Mara of delight, kind of if you have elation, so you feel it, an excitement, and so that is when you experience this sense of satisfaction about something. You feel very good about something. So this demon is really rooted in pride, concerning some kind of positive aspect of your practice, maybe, or it could be because you think you have a really great guru or a great lineage, or you're just seeing your own practice improving, or some other favorable conditions coming along, and then you may think that I'm really very quite special. I have it's really also amazing. I have this amazing lama and the lineage and all of that. And Chikdun Zumgan actually said in the Gongchik that remaining untouched by the three great ones is the actual realization. The three great ones means referring to Mahamudra, Dzogchen, and Madhyamaka, or the middle way. So the three great views. What he means is that there are some people that really kind of hold on to that have a strong grasping at that. Many people say, like, I'm a Dzogchen practitioner, and also people actually do think that. And they say that I'm a Mahamudra practitioner, I'm a Madhyamaka philosopher, and all of that. And so then they think that what they have this great path, and that they're this practitioner, and even think that they have this great tell people they have this experience and visions and so on. Then who knows if they really actually practice, their practice of Dzogchen, for example, is really actually that great or not. So what happens is that when we have these like high feelings about our practice and so on, feel elated like that, and we become very prideful, and that constitutes an obstacle to our practice. So when that happens, when this Mara of delight arises, then we cut it with a fierce pet, and again let it dissolve into the expanse of the mother, so the perfection of wisdom, and we continue returning back to the practice.
真的就是没来的这种，听面打过没养啥其实，听把面别打过没养啥情报有啥，老面起怕前几忙，老面别起怕前几忙不有的是他听着我做抢着这个人，
Lo me bakal chege mama gere.
老面起怕是前几来就忙不有的是的，
Ah,
对吧？
lega mambo toge.
我在咱们当
Ah,
然们找个啥，
oh, ah,
老面起怕前几忙，听面打过没养啥去，听面打过没养啥去的，那他说做我咱们当的听面哪着啊？对，这听面他打过没养啥情报有的是。老面起跑前几忙是老面被他起跑这说节目是拉票让俺说着，他说他前几来就忙不有的是，他那帮咱们的说，他就抢着说啥了。
mm. Amela Rayburn said that for now, a view and a practice of the lesser path, the lesser vehicle, there are great like there's a great abyss, like there's a great kind of a cliff, that a deep cliff that one may fall down. So there is like a danger of a great abyss that one may fall down, because so with lower a path or lesser path, what is really meant is just us ordinary people actually. So it's just a lower and inferior state of mind, and this state of mind has much going on, all kinds of thoughts and things that we need to do, thinking about a lot. So this is what we actually mean with like a lesser path or like a lesser vehicle. It's really meaning referring to ordinary people that constantly develop all sorts of thoughts.
真的希望他年纪大，他都希望提倡，早晚他年纪大出去了，他早晚年纪大些，他当这种会瞧出来了，对于早晚年纪大，希望他年纪大的，对就要来看的是呢，南方上这边这穷了年纪大，说他南方这边成了年纪大，他对希望呢早晚他年纪大起来啊。看下子，他他南方这边他说忙不下红，那真的看下子我，他讲的他给嘛那些皮把人洗过来是哪是多。
And then number 4 is the demon of conceptual elaboration. Some call it deceit. And that is really, this demon is really at the root of all the other demons. It is the grasping, the self-grasping demon. And so it's whatever arises, whatever thoughts and fixations arise in the mind, that is, it is the what arises is that demon of conceptual elaboration, of self-grasping. And so whatever it is that arises, as before, you send it into space with a sharp pet and cut it in the root, at the root this way. And as before, you let it dissolve and you rest in the expanse, in the nature of mind.
我这恐怕zum can den du是了zum can du是我这恐怕在这托接du托面du个路du zum给他们du天上du的我是我嗯我这du真的他你说他让托跟人家刚错吧是用完米呢这他投入节产怎么样这人过了去没节产怎么样他说行第是干来看不的是这样把它东说米东说不加着是这我们这人起来刚错吧过吧了年终这样吧活动着吧你说但这也是刚的错的呢这年终怎么样了这活动要过来恰个来送的吧这些可过是
And so the first 3 maras are all included in this one, in this last mara, the demon of conceptual elaboration. And then now, without a self-reliant, independent practice, like a firmly grounded practice that is grounded in all of these methods, just wandering to some fearsome places like the charnel grounds and so on, it can become mere pretense. So it may look bold, but it's a little bit hard for it to actually be practiced if the practice is not really grounded in these previous methods. So first we need to establish the foundation in order to be able to progress meaningfully in such a practice.
我真的当你忙个做这旁边的那个当局呢在可能。还是和了的没二十的，这可能上段真的没了有，他开始那你嘛真小啥的，但他这就把他的忙不在，他说真小啥的哇， 들어온 점 표서 들어오 디자도 맞아 요사래 되고 다像西嘛马代做这口让我说马代路上让这路过了没忙不了土老是空等过了哪怕在空提是线了过了哪怕东西哪怕是空真的提哪怕提去了我这了那提现在去这个了家的上多人不都把我了是空这过去了这就把说就从这过呀第三去了都可着了要就把他妈的冲着个是这冲着可着了哇这冲着可着了可着他你们来西藏没啥的这你妈这过程里那下这些哈就把这都是下这个他们现在家起码都是个那种东西得是下他们咱们过去的把这个还应该在说下个嘛这些都是这些都是这跑脚嘛都是这每个人通的都是什么这通的这就把这就在送这工作了你的其实过程里老下就是这本来这可能那学员通过噻这都是提纲大这人多是是下他可别学啥了他俺那就没得可以提上一些有啥的等于把他人不在那里他把门通是吃做啥了门通吃做这的刚来接触是下这可你现在说跑人都是这是过嘛那老多就是
Milam bang mendo.
啊
Milam tang mendo.
就是
Milam tang ke mendo ngona ra.
没人啥了吧？没咱们过他妈先那过学了，
Janang ko ya.
那么的我那人，
Ngona ra.
他唐伯过没忙不就把忙不先那过提加拉子可能去加拉地上，这是先把出是吧？我从提加拉子嘛，可能去他去到学啥了，这起码这他这他过也不错什么了的。
Tini ko gujim supo kuyo me bara wa
他
chagda.
先把这做他等于去的出到学啥，这加拉的地上，这他妈可能去这可能会去到学啥了吧？这就把镜头是，这过程啊，长他在有人去了，我这有人，他伢在到我噻，现在这么多是，咱们可就东西都是，咱们可伢的他呢都拍的这说些的，可人的都是噻，人的每个盘通的都是，跑去看都是，等跑去看嘛的，这就把这就吃上送的过年的是这个他，这边那呀，那可能小家的通。这多领的说啥的，说过半多事情，他过别些事，俺那里下下来的上，些事情，这怕门通啥子，那不着去就刚领的这回事情的，这抓过来，这过程跑进都是。
There was this once a story. Kapun remembers that he's heard in Tibet from his uncle, and in fact, his uncle would always tell all kinds of stories, and that's one of them. And so there's a story about some Chöd practitioners who would go to practice Chöd in the charnel grounds and fighting places. And then there was one kind of naughty person who always tried to tease them and scare them, and then also steal their things. And so he would kind of dress up as some kind of ghost. So he had this kind of a rag, sort of sack kind of thing over his whole body, and he had poked holes in there. So he was wearing this sack over his body with holes inside, and I guess he wore something on his head, and some kind of ornament, and then he held this long stick in his hand. So he basically impersonated as a demon just to scare those true practitioners on that site. And so he was kind of a wild looking, wearing these rags. And then when the true practitioners began to play, then he started with his tricks, and he would like make he would like make these sounds and make them scared, and then they would just run away afraid, and then he could take all of their things, like their pots and pans, like things like that, and then use it for himself. So that's how he would rob those Chöd practitioners. He would like scare them and pretend to be the ghost. And then, but one day he met with like the wrong Chöd practitioner. That one did not get scared so easily, and so he again started to try to scare that Chöd practitioner, but this Chöd practitioner, he couldn't care less. He didn't even look, and he kept just doing his practice. And then he just came a little bit closer, and he said a pet and so on. But the Chöd practitioner just didn't care. And then eventually he tripped, and when he tripped, then his body couldn't move anymore, but his eyes could still see. So he could still see what's happening, but he just couldn't go anywhere. And so he was just laying down there, right there, with the trip practitioner. And this practitioner just calmly continued his practice, finished the practice, went to bed, went to sleep, and woke up the next morning. That the frozen person still lying there. Then the trip practitioner took his breakfast, then he still couldn't move. And then trip practitioner left, went somewhere else. And then he thought that how could you just leave me like that here? Now I can't move. And he was really afraid. Now I'm all alone. So then the trip practitioner actually went somewhere else. And then at the other place, he was playing the thigh bone trumpet. And then that person, the frozen person, he heard the sound of the trumpet from afar, and then that made him be able to move again.
好的，咱娘们呢，我呢，他在让康凑吧，过是让康没凑，这从那么这种东西，让几他抽着就是吧，凑的人呢，都能把几头小什么过真吧，妈的，新郎姑娘的，第一次来看不错是吧？
So that is is to show that when to do the truth practice properly, we need to have this foundation. Our practice needs to be steady and self-reliant, so that nothing can affect you or move you. Just like this truth practitioner, like if you don't have this stability like the other practitioners, you can easily shake them up, and then they're not really grounded. That's where the harm comes from.
我的他们的车干着你有的，咱看你的，我是就那这些我讲到在没上街呢，晓得没上这是不接有的，不可能的说的，过在车干着就有的，点我那话叫一个，一那个的，这个弄，
Luck by.
别碰到，老板别过点我，老板讲的有啥，不提起，一那个，晓得，过弄嘛做个事，别碰，碰到。
Also, just remember that once I'm back in Tibet, I was with an elderly monk, and we were doing church practice at a family's home, and they had like a naughty kid, and so then we sat down, did the practice, and the kid kind of he kind of put his hand on the underneath the cushion, the monk, and he kept like tickling him and like moving his hands around, and then the monk just couldn't stay still, and he got really nervous about it.
哦，他真是啥的，真的。他通知一下真多的，通知一下点这大班的你的，通知他测试一下的哇，通知一下这个人，那就是你们俩他都去求我军，那就是明白了。我这是求我军，他求我军像军情没被你们俩去下子，没啥事吧？求我军是你们俩去那么多年的，军情没把他你们俩去下，去年的军情没把他那个才是你们俩去的的，他没让他我什么看中，弄个意思，穷处说拉没把就，他是人家没得用个意思，没让你拿的，样子我说没拿的。我这弄个有说了，咱们的用个意思。提出呢，浏览那啥当，先来看这穷是，我看这经常说，就上那说穷是我的，看这个经常中，我才听着就上那说穷是，没来的吧？这咱们的痛呢，这讲的你他自己弄自己就是那票啥的话，弄自己弄这种，我听就是那说穷是没看那些，他看些跟俺没看那些都家他吃的，我听着他说那干嘛的，我这是说爸都没办穷啊是。我这咱这两几块没被娘们年过的，是咱几块没安的，娘们这他的，他应该说就长大听那娘们去过的种多。
And next, there is a section called the measure of progress in the truth practice, and that has two categories for kind of evaluating the progress. And one is through basically being triggered, the triggering stage, and then the second one is the kind of completion, perfection. And so first there's the triggering, and so for the triggering, so here the yogi must practice. First of all, a yogi must be in a state of steady and continuous practice, like a flowing river. When the Rinpoche also thought about that practice has to be continuous, ongoing. And so then as one's practice deepens, then sometimes the various things can happen, experiences can happen that affect our practice or kind of trigger us in our body, speech, and mind. For example, it could be that we experience a physical illness or pain, or feeling just a mental state of unrest and like being an emotional agitation, or having some frightening visions of demons, or experiencing real or in dreams, like being slandered and being the object of rumors and so forth, and accusations and argument. So all of these things can actually happen during one's practice, to see if they can trigger us. We can see in Milarepa's example, he encountered all kinds of these triggers. There are some demons who often just came to provoke him, and some tried to actually harm him. So these things that provoke us and trigger us will happen. But then Milarepa, he overcame them by continuing the practice. So we just need to keep going with the practice. So one should fearlessly just persist in the practice, no matter what arises.
我等没来的，这是从那弄吧，这弄吧些那戳吧，没来我最重要了，这查什么个？
Pasimolara. Milarepa said to the demon as I'm passing more, that when you see the demon as a demon, the demon becomes harmful. But if you see the demon as not really existing, it becomes empty.
我等呢，这几天呢，他你把车子一下，这多车子这当然这咱们家去买啊，这样他那啥看中央超市去吧，我这这样那啥看中那的。 超前过来，这当然说，但娘俩今年这呢，这是这样拖年过，所以我这开心不这里，这样拖嘛拖，那娘俩是了去拖嘛，他那啥东啊，说几步这样嘛的，咱们过来加过去，他这样拖过去的，我在车上那所用这个娘俩去的，这个那一刻在上班那在亚洲那所用这把的，我这是上班在俺说这样拖不起过去了，这那啥的，东啊开的那天愿意的，我这超是钱吧，我说不那么钱吧些是。 我就是刚他去那呢，去吧，这个其实这吧没，但去在那他发现啥的，去在那他把根部都想那么强了，他说东南这个面是因为他根部强这吧这个，我真正这个起码这吧起过嘛的是没得吧是，我他这个那说他你们起特别起过是，他你在这西藏呢，这上考虑起特别些就嘛哇，我他今年起过的也是，或者他们起我着不弄完呢是。 我这或者他们去做，或者俺把就是恰中，或者俺把晓得吧，或者他们去做，我做切是过的意思。我这就是没来的吧，他们年轻啊，现在去那么一让我说就是说这大票的，年轻啊，从忙的时候落下这里工作，说人们刚家的在他去开始讲去考这里的工作场面说就是没来老忙的恰，我是希望能恰多，我才是认真啥的，这啥子路当对嘛困难就完了。 多个담som다 총고 소다多个담som다 총고 또 선나 상화로 고선 투로 다 탑자고 담세 매년라데 다데 로강라 디스가리 하버래 와티 좀 버티 거네 세당 주반년 바시 치네 통신推行로 먼저 로 소와데 세당 주반년 대 통신 推行로 그래서
So then the next one, so that was the first point. And now the second point, after the triggering and the provocation, is then to the measure of being able to take those as the path to actually practice with them. And so by taking spirits, demons, and various conditions like sickness or obstacles, all as friends on the path, then we transform them. It's like we are transforming kind of a dry, basically a dry dogma into an actual practice. And so as practitioners, that's what we really need to do. We have to practice with things as they come along. So it's not just about like sickness and pain, but just also about enduring hardships for the sake of practice. For example, being uncomfortable or not having the food we need and so on. Just practicing through difficulty. And so whatever the hardship comes, you can make it your friend, your path of practice. For example, when in Milarepa's case, first the five Tsering sisters came to provoke him and to cause harm. But in the beginning, Milarepa tried to counter them by praying fervently to the three jewels and so on. But that really did nothing, and in fact, it increased their power, and they sent even more armies of demons. And then eventually Milarepa just gave up and he thought that just do whatever you want. And he just continued his practice. And that is when they dissolved and then actually became his devoted disciples themselves. So here, and so one simply that's what happens beam. And so then it says here, so the motivation, there's this motivation that arises is one of renunciation, which leads to a disregard of food, clothing, and reputation. So when you make this your practice, then all favorable conditions of practice will come together, will be fulfilled naturally.
ngay kang zi zhong zi yu gong, ima ta ngay akh ji yor zi, ko zhong dhamma ra yu, han nima zi joba nyi yor zi. Tene joba nyi yor zi, joba zi nga zhong nyi aga wana yu, hata ngay ma bu zi. Zi joba nyi yor zi, joba nyi yor zi, zi so zi kandang la, kona nipo zhong zi ya chi, tu kya nang, tu su na so, tu su nan zi nga nima son dhamma tara, tu ya chi zi, kona nipo sa che kakhan de kyo sarwa. Kya zi tu ya chi zi. 저바 제 손을 세트라 손도 돼. 제 동야 천 만도서 go 있어. 동야 천 만도서. 대고서 좋은다 손지 사조디 손당 하나 좋은지 그도서 조디 손조 체가 lep드. 근데 다방은 뭐 쓰지 않는 거지. 다방은 뭐지? 대다방
Moon.
다 공도 다방은
Oh,
뭐.
the horse.
horse 공도 냐면
Mm, mm,
다다 제 내가 쓰서 다방은 뭐지?
mm,
다방은 뭐先다방은 뭐지 거说的.
mm,
大我不知道，这大外我不了解，然后对这个洗脑
mm,
搞的嘛，我
mm,
这是在是晓得，但其实不着急是累了，累了我说那是别家的都是，我这是其实就着急是哪的噻，可可呀呀，那他就那差点着过在那这这个那就自己的噻，他没头就他就说上下游，
mhm,
这下是
mhm,
嘛下的这就从嘛东西这里就家讲错嘛同样都是。 다른
mhm,
거로 가지 요와 같은 룰에 앞뒤는 소나 제압소 사례 소라고 사례 동양 말고
mhm,
된 동양도 소在小在现在台湾我不提点点去说在做那嘛
mhm,
但春都说的哇什么
mhm,
才是风气才是说啥的
mhm,
但他的才是风气是的就说说定数的来嘛从那春都他是台湾我不在去那点点去去那接说啥就把这接有马上年来没推起的哦他这呢我在这拉是
mhm. Actually, there's another story that my uncle told, or the uncle that likes to tell stories. And also, when I was young, I really used to enjoy listening to his stories. He told me quite a few. So again, there was another story about another two Chöd practitioners. So there were two friends, two Chöd practitioners, and they wanted to go to a lake to practice Chöd there. And so but they lived both in separate places. So then they made a time and they said, let's meet at such and such a time at the lake. Let's meet there later. So then they planned on meeting at the lakes. And so then one of them went ahead and came to the lake. But then when the time came, the friend still hadn't arrived, wasn't there. So since the friend just didn't show up, he decided to just begin the chöd by himself. So he just started the practice. When he was about halfway through the practice, a blue horse suddenly appeared. And the blue horse came close, and he said, "I have some problem with my back or something. Can you help me? And can you help me with that?" And then he said, "All right, but first I'm finishing. I'm doing my practice first." So he did not interrupt his.
台湾我自己特了就是那可旅游，而且旅游了，我说那什么不叫都是，
Oh.
一点点说
Mhm.
是那什么。
So what the horse also said is that coming from the Naga realm. In the Naga realm, we have an issue there. So the issue is that there's some disease spreading in the Naga realm, and we need you to come and help us. So can you come with me? And so he said, all right, but I'm going to deal with that later because first I'm halfway through my Chöd practice. I'm going to finish that first. So he did not interrupt his practice. So he just kept practicing. He intended to help that horse, but he just first wanted to finish the practice. And so he did the practice. And then when he finished, however, the horse was already gone. And also his friend still had not shown up. And so he wondered maybe that blue horse was my friend coming in another form to try and get me and distract me perhaps. But he did not get distracted by that. So that's one example of a true practitioner who practices with those triggers or provocations on the path and just perseveres, goes through the practice. We've had an example of one who gets triggered and then carried away, and another one who just stays on course and doesn't get triggered. Do you have any questions? It's also okay if you don't have questions, not like you must have questions. But I don't hear anything from you, by the way.
Yeah. Okay, this is better maybe. I'm just curious about your personal practice of Chöd when you were in the wild spaces of Tibet, if there were ever any concerns that you might have had with wild animals like wolves or bears or anything like that. And maybe perhaps any recommendations for those of us who might sometime in the future go to those wild places and do Chöd where there are wolves and bears.
Nguma kerang te fan niensa dis kasa kala pain ba Chöd nyam nan shela. Tene pena samsan la tene di chinsen na tuksigira pena chanko yana demon and so tene tom de tuksigira ba. Tene di kapla tene kerang nyam non ta nyam nan karas chi yori kainsen na chichine mombalang. So tene da wochik do kona di toktumna. Tene tin kapla pena chanko da wochik tin da nguna semchen yora ba. To back up like the net and yaman shit up your way.
Message talk my song, talk my song. Or talk my song. Talk song that I didn't answer so cheat home not a yawa sarva. That's also true nowadays. Something Yamachina yawa sari. Then I message talk my song. Then I say, they can't do the urine to the lago. The Jews, much Jones he did it. So 这就用这些的写下来，真的就用这些的对的老出版中，出版嘛哪是哪对的嘛啥送在这啥码头说啥的吧？出版
Still Sason, Chibati.
出版有了，老出版中，
Oh, look, Tiba.
是那么个了不嘞？我听着。我听着在他别想的，可能看板了，那就用这些挺对的嘛，那啥个啥的，但对的了。可他什么在当时，什么当你这块家嘛在当时，这块家嘛在当时，这个这家家嘛是的，他管着这个啥，这说的没这些现有的说那个了，说，的那或者有了说了，我听讲这么长嘛，谁才有谁啥个，这这么长嘛，谁有谁啥个，这么长嘛，谁有晓得。 这节了可就送茶在这里，突然超过个了，谁有一头噻？但等你去哪得谁有啥了？这在先讲可着，全部着，在先听你去哪意思？他就没头年来钱呐，得上骗谁了？
So Edwin says, I personally have not encountered like a wild animal like that, this kind of circumstance. But if you encounter such a circumstance, then the best thing is to practice, as you mentioned before, and just keep basically what you see it as like a confused perception. Actually, there's another story from my uncle that comes to mind. Another Chöd practitioner. He was doing Chöd, and so the Loki Tubarwa.
Choba, Choba, poor.
Porora.
Paul, hello, Chöd.
Huh?
Stomach.
Stomach?
Yeah.
Oh. Look stomach den gör det va?
Although stomach chimbo na yoro atendu no ze
Uh-huh.
da na ro sa wa. Na Chöd se ze yoro ka ro na. Na.
Din alla gick långsamt.
Wa te ma hong ga sa ma to sa hong ga sa ran du de.
Probati. Look probati.
Chöd de. Hong do ko ti ga remote so remote ma chi yo sa wa ka. 所以这家弱这些，但上不这家弱这家非常少，这家嘛，这说什么吃小的节，这可能就差是这可能超过个什么吃有很多是吧？这家呢可能送就是啥吧？
Yeah.
我知道在说啥。
Yeah. So anyways, he was a straight practitioner, and so what he had in front of him was a sheep stomach, kind of a skin or something like I guess a sheep's stomach. And he had a confused perception about it. It seems that he thought that it was moving, and so he didn't know. First, he thought I'm going to stab it with a knife, but then he didn't have a knife to stab it with, and so then he took some of the coal, the coal from the stove, from the some black coal, and then he kind of drew some kind of magic diagram, and then threw it over there, like to that so-called demon, but then he finished his church, and then when he was done, he noticed that drawing that he drew, he thought he was drawing on the sheep's stomach. He actually was on in his belly. The drawing was on his belly. So a good thing that he didn't have a knife, because if he would have had a knife and stabbed it, he would have stabbed his own belly.
Ja, 真的吃吧有呀。
Any other questions? You have something in the chat?
I have a question.
Okay.
In the empowerment, you were talking about visualize these white spheres from the feet that go up through the body, the ignorance leaving the body as offering. Do we use this visualization at all in Chöd practice or any other time? Or could you tell us a little more about it?
La visualisation.
Make pachito ting so timo ting so sa kapo ti thile na ba tini kangten tini chia ching do go yoris ti make pachito hatsang ti make pa ti chogi kapla chipo peche ta yor ve ti yang ti wang kapla yana chön nyamlen chepe kapla yana ti kap shenba yang in make pa ti make pa sa ta ya yor ve. That was the empowerment, right? Was that during the empowerment?
Yes.
Hello?
On fait référence à
Yes, it was
l'initiation.
during the empowerment.
So I can't hear anything. I'm hearing somebody else speaking. I don't know. Was that? Can you everybody mute if you're not muted? Thank you. Can you say again? Was it the empowerment?
Yes, it was in the empowerment. Yes.
Yeah, wrong kaplari.
Ale tele wa ka gang ti de wo ga wo ya song si
Mm.
ling ba ji wo zhe pi de wo zhe ji dong gang ti ra jie yo ma wa ne po wa de so ya ba du de ba le qin yang ro ya de de yo wa te ta da de wang ti kan ten na jian do.
Din 남편이한테는 배쳤다냐 여러분 살답이야
像
여러분.
没些卡库嘛，送家通嘛，送家有啥没些家有啥嘛的，他的就他往破瓦岗在破瓦江呢，那这样，三破瓦听那些台湾人，三年看人，他也把人家就有了，他嘛都问着啥，他刚提到嘛，就讲先把通嘛送。
So Ruben himself has only encountered that in this specific context and not anywhere else, but it does sound a bit similar to visualization we do during the Poa practice, where we move the consciousness upward, sometimes starting from the navel, sometimes at the heart. And so it's similar, but it's still not quite the same. But it seems that the principle is similar. But he has not heard about any other use of that involves transporting that window from the soles of your feet.
Yeah. 他呢，他吃饭都还，
In the practice, there are a lot of visualizations. There's first, I think, as the Bhagavati for Prajna Paramita, and then there was Vajra Yogini. So should we first spend some time to practice those before making a regular practice of Chöd, or is it okay to start with this as the regular practice? And we will get the insights by just doing this practice.
Tene tambo temikpa shemba kashi yori pena yum sherap harodru chimba yum chembo tene yang pamo yang kwam gogo yori tene din nyamlan dinala tene tambo chu nyamlan machi ngun la tene tambo pena yum chembo tene pamo tambo di dis nyamlan chigo reve yana teka chu nyamlan chiran tinabo di yum chembo tene pamo tene kwam chogo reves
다 들어와 룰 파먹으면 알아 왔다 소소소 룰 파먹으면 내 교사를 다 지난 윤회 겁나 룰 파먹으면 되는 거 그샘 내로 차대 친구랑 내리나 그 싫어 바로 지금 통다 안 좋은 사람 대치 전에 다다디 가세 지난 주 냠내 지나다 그런 배자 나오는 동금 정말 전에送나 직관 정을 해서도 동금 정 동네 뭐 검도 야라 배자
Ina chitan di ngun la bana ngun ro la thambo phamo
ngol nyamna chen na de so so lu phom om den sem ma chu beng ang nyamna chi
ne ko ngun la sena ti tun di ngun la ke mare chitan thambo bana ngun ro da ro
na tu ngo la me nge
oh okay thambo lu di kom shi cha da ro
wa thom di sha na pheng gi ro wa ti
so we visualize in this practice we visualize our body in the form of Vajra Yogini and then and that is our main visualization for the most part and then with the mind we rest in the state of Mahamudra, the nature of the mind, and that is the Prajna Paramita, the perfection of wisdom, great mother. And so then for the Chöd practice, you can just start with the practice and visualize as you go along. So as you read, you visualize, but it's always beneficial to have some habituation of the practice before you do the practice. So you have some experience in visualizing your body as that deity and having the mind rest in a natural state. You had a question?
So I had heard this story of a nun who had done Chöd practice, and somewhere along the line it went wrong. Like she saw something really, really frightening, and she was like almost like permanently traumatized. And so I'm like wondering, like, does this kind of like show that maybe going to like some students might not be ready to go to graveyards and like really practice with, in those scary places, and we should wait for the Lama to tell us, you're ready to go, or just we maybe shouldn't just go if we feel like it and we don't know if we're ready or not, is my question.
Ti mo ani kola chi koson di ani ti chu nyamlen chi gi yorim. Teni chu nyamlen chi ba mo nien sa la chi song yo sa ra. Tin tela pe jinang chenbo chi ta chi sha yo sa ra. Ti tela tene pe jinang chenbo ki song. Teni tela tene pe chi sem la gyön chi so song. Teni pe chi cha song ra tela tene ta mun tu ne ra gyön chi cha song. Teni tine ina teni mi kashe penata torture droya teni sanyen san droya chichina taje tabo mixe kan sem gita yora ba shida meba dona chichina nugere teni chichina ganso lama chiki takeran de la drona ta na do chosa res di masong ge parto madonna yaga reves khande dok
wa te thare se lab do wa se nyamle te kan ma so wa se nya sa man ro se la bi do thare se kan dis ma so wa se kan so de dis ke chen bo de tempo ma cha la ro tempo ma cha ha den ro din de ze chen ang de yong na de nge thare la ba na ka chon ro de no wa de chon ro ya ka che chen ang je de yong si ba de es wa te en du 세마 대반동 다 들이 용시 바래我这人对说唐伯在他着呀了这的是娘们俩提这他这啥的怎么说样那拉玛的有那拉玛提啥就那娘们俩不都送那这是的让我弄嘛着我听这穷们在唐伯红的在学我这东西咱那好上个来可不多
Mhm. So that's why we actually mentioned before that in the text it mentioned that therefore you should not go to frightening places without stability in the practice. So without having like planted your legs literally in the practice, being really stable in the practice. So that stability is really very important. That's also why I told these stories before. There are some people who, just as examples of people who have not attained the stability and who ended up running away just because their minds were not ready for that yet. And so then that also can cause them to feel like just feeling mentally can really disturb their minds, right? So first, we do need a real experience, a genuine experience where you yourself feel I can handle this. I'm ready. Or also your lama may tell you your practice is strong. You're ready for this. But other than that, if you're not completely ready and if you just go to these places, and we can really run into difficulties.
야, 너는 좋아요, 신바.
More question?
Yes, I have. Does the opening of the sky door empowerment have a mandala which we were supposed to throw a flower for? Or is it just because it's the Torma that we don't need to know like Buddha family tantric activity? Because I had a Vajrakalaya mandala just laying there, so I threw a flower and it went over the mandala. I had my eyes closed, and it was very like much the Western direction. But I don't know if that's important for this, for the Yidam. I already have that all figured out, but for people that need clarity, and it would be nice to know.
가장 왕기갑 라드님 남경이나 왕들랑서 디 긴고지 쇼나 데니 메톡 돌게 열어봐 데니 메톡 가봐봐나 데니 디기 디 카나리 라직 카나리 레그 밥 라열어봐 데니 가장 왕기갑 라드니 유사 마레 이나 양코랑 di poba ki kingwa chikna potate she ore skisi konarwa teni ko metok chama tate she ore teni tin na la mena yang khorang mik chomna teni metok di torsong teni metok di pap di kong di nopsok la papsong teni di muna tanda yoda me tanda di gabla ha ko mendok kain sena wang gabla kang song ma song ati kola
我忘听到有嘛的，这当忘，他有的没来有的哇，我才去他当地那什么都是哇，我才有嘛的，他那我在去那做了毛囊这一节去那，呀，他去那这个的是哇，做了毛囊这一节，贴吧的对吧？就是这一节去那，他这个的都是。
So this specific empowerment does not have that casting of the flower. There's different empowerments. Some have it and some don't, and this one doesn't. But still, if you pray with a single pointed faith and like an inspired mind, then it's still fine if you have your own mandala.
야, 됐네.
You have something in the chat? With this one, I experience emptiness, but bliss doesn't arise. Compassion does, however. What is wrong with my meditation? I guess that was a question for Drupal, right? These are my daughter. Kung di kom gyab de tongba ni des torgadok nyamnon chitokra. Yina yang dewa sia di giamendok yegemendok ninja yegedok tongba ni chik yegedok yina yang dewa kan yegemendok. Then kon notul courage yo.
但这个，您姐姐那这个，东尼多呢，您姐姐呢，到现在没什么大的别， 다见面呢他同着不是总口了他我听着这个
So that's fine. As long as you have compassion, that's fine. Milarepa had said when you realize emptiness, compassion arises. And when compassion arises, you no longer cling to yourself, and through that, all you need to accomplish will be accomplished.
等等 야
Can we use?
아
Oh, okay. Can we use the PET method to cut off discursive thoughts outside of chöd practice? Ang sa chun yam le ma jebe gabla nam to da men da gina ti gabla yang PET tapshi di chöd chogo rebe.
这个是偏呢这个配置把就是比较难做的
Yes, if it helps, then you can do it, because PET is the syllable that cuts through thoughts. How can we as Westerners who aspire to practice in the Greek, wait a minute, have we already had that? No, we haven't. How can we as Westerners who aspire to practice in the graveyards work with the perception others may have of us as being strange? Is it a matter of simply persisting in our practice? Teni chitang mimang chitang ki mirwa te cancer was some good. Teni tika bra khai chigore sta mun thuna ta utsu gyaptan drogins chigore yana khai chigore.
他这咱们俩说说哪起点这个也不是入名了
So chimla
说说前面两步在咱们这起点呢这个
so
nga zo nara da american no thuru no zen do ha chi thế mà beli su song di ma zong yang chi zong le ka bo yo ka ji nyong ba le na de de ba na song di ya de dam
So in here in our environment, it's better to just stay home and practice there, because I've been in America. So in America, you can't just go to some kind of graveyard and practice there. You might get arrested by the police, and they might think you're crazy. So it's better you just stay and do the practice quietly in your home.
现在我做眼嘛，他在后头的，他在你实际上你多少个嘛？后啥都大伙有嘛的，后开始那个嘛，东巴的啦大伙有嘛，啥大伙家的人有嘛，啥实际上清楚了吧？他在你啥忙些穷的，他说当地话这个你不理解的，咱们这两我俺们这个姐姐的，你家里看过有这什么？
So the stories I'm telling, it comes from Tibet. So in Tibet, we have a lot of wide open space that nobody owns. So you can just go practice anywhere. Nobody owns those places, but it's different here. In places like here, like almost every piece of land belongs to somebody. You can't just go somewhere and that doesn't belong to you and practice there, because you're probably trespassing, and then the police will come and get you.
야, ten 삼 그러다. 단 ten3치 향한테 상니치.
So let's stop here, and we can have more tomorrow.
야. 되네. 당아도 저리 계신데 치향나 단 다다. 단 지금 좀 저리 계신 치향나.
So the chicken sumgan dedication.
피지 30 30 1 Ja, English.
Holy, venerable, precious, kind, root, and lineage lamas, divine assembly of yadams and assemblies of Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, heroes and heroines, yogini and assembly of dakinis dwelling in the 10 directions, please heed me. By the power of this vast root of virtue, may I benefit all sentient beings through my body, speech, and mind. May the afflictions of desire, hatred, ignorance, pride, and jealousy not arise within my mind. May thoughts of fame, reputation, wealth, honor, and concern for this life not arise for even a moment. May my mind stream be moistened by loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta, and through that may it become a spiritual master with good qualities equal to the infinity of space. May I gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. Even at death, may the torment of suffering not arise. May I not die with negative thoughts. May I not die confused by wrong view. May I not experience an untimely death. May I die joyfully and happily in the great luminosity of the mind as such, and in the pervasive clarity of Dharmata. May I, in any case, gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra at the time of death or in the bardo.
Yeah, okay, thank you. See you tomorrow, maybe.
We meet again at 9 a.m. Chicago time.
And we have Chöd practice.
Thank you, Drupala. Thank you, Ina.
Okay, thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Drupanla.
Thank you.
Thank you, Inala.
Thank you.
Thank you, Drupanla.
Good to see you
Kaden-
again, Jupanla.
Kadenche, thank you very much, Ina and Drupanla and everyone in the Sangha.
Thank you, Ina.
There's
Thank you.
there's Chöd practice at 7:30.
Yes, 7:30, and we will have it on Zoom and YouTube as well. Jupan, please come if you can.
No, thank
No? Okay, Anila will lead it. Anila will be.
Gotta have a break
Thank
sometime.
you.
Please join us.
Thank you, everyone.
It's this
Yeah.
Zoom link. It's the same Zoom link today at 7:30.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Same
great.
Zoom link. Same link, yes.
Tukchanang.
Thank you so much.
Kadenche, Kadenche.
Thank you.
If anyone's still there, the French channel cut out about 30 minutes ago. So I continued on my recording, but I don't think people got it for the last 20 minutes.
Which channel went out?
The French channel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But I kept on translating anyhow the local recording, and it will be posted on my channel like usual.
Okay.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
See you 7:30.
See you soon.
Or
Okay. See you.
tomorrow, Daniel. Adama.